Chapter 826. Sometimes impulse often comes at a great price. Lai Haoan quickly calmed down. Although Tianquan world has 6 realms of transformation, which may be difficult to deal with, for the treasures of Tianquan world and to find opportunities to break through the limit, they must conquer Tianquan world no matter what. It's just the realm of gods in the lower world, so it's still not something to be afraid of, the advantage lies with him. However, at this moment, another female monk exuding the aura of the god transformation realm entered the void. Seeing another woman, Lai Haoan's face turned completely gloomy. This woman cannot be Emperor Xia, which means that Emperor Xia is still on the immortal boat, and there are actually 7 realms of divine transformation in Tianquan world. At this time, the monks in the Raging Flame world were stunned, and some even had the idea of returning to the Raging Flame world. Before people could react, several more people got off the ferry boat in Tianquan world, and the auras of more than a dozen god transformation realm monks were released from their bodies. After feeling the breath of more than a dozen monks in the realm of gods, the monks in the flame world were instantly stunned. It's just a low-level world, how come there are so many cultivators in the realm of gods? How is this going? Didn't Emperor Lai say that Emperor Xia was the only monk in the realm of transformation into gods? At this time, Lai Haoan himself was also confused. The information returned by their spies was indeed that there was only one monk in the god transformation realm, Emperor Xia, and Tianquan world was only a lower world. How could so many monks in the god transformation realm be born? How many cultivation resources has the great power who set up restrictions in Tianquan world left behind in Tianquan world? Xiao Liangji asked cautiously, Your Majesty. Your Majesty, what should we do now? Lai Haoan did not answer immediately. He glanced at the monks in the transformation of God realm, and he could tell at a glance that although those monks in the transformation of God realm released aura that seemed to be in the soul transformation realm, in fact, their aura was relatively empty. At first glance, it doesn't look like it's really in the realm of divine transformation. In other words, those people do not have the strength to transform into gods. Lai Haoan's guess was correct. Most of the monks in Tianquan world did not have the cultivation level of the god transformation realm. They were able to release the aura of the god transformation realm mainly because they had the holy glory armor on their bodies. With the blessing of the Shengui armor, they have the strength of the God Transformation realm, so they can release the God Transformation realm aura from their bodies. At this time, Lai Haoan thought he had seen through the people in Tianquan world, and then he sent a message to the people behind him and said, those in the God Transformation realm in Tianquan world are not really in the God Transformation realm. They have treasures that can enhance their aura. Hearing Lai Haoan's words, everyone was stunned. Then they carefully looked at the God Transformation realm monks in Tianquan world. As a result, they found that what Lai Haoan said was true. Those people did seem to have a somewhat erratic aura. Indefinite. When they thought that those people were not really in the God Transformation realm, the monks in the flame world were instantly relieved. They really thought that there were more than a dozen strong ones in the God Transformation realm. I didn't expect that they were all fake gods. Since it's not really the realm of divine transformation, then there's nothing to be afraid of. The next moment, the 10,000 Dharma realm monks in the flame world directly launched an attack on Yin Zhenjai and the others. Yin Zhenjai and the others were not in a hurry. When they saw that those skills and moves were about to fall on them, the spiritual energy of Yin Zhenjai's body was suddenly released. The next moment, a huge coercion instantly enveloped the void where they were. Middle. The faces of the monks in the flame world suddenly changed. Return to the ruins realm. It's actually the return to ruins realm. How can a low-level world like Tianquan world have a strong man from the ruins realm? It's fake. It must be fake. He must have a magic weapon to enhance his aura. Yes, since they can elevate their aura to the realm of transformation into gods, they can naturally also elevate their aura to the realm of returning to ruins. Let's not be deceived by him. Everyone take action together. After Yin Zhenjai released the aura of the ruins realm, it did not stop the monks from the flame world from launching an attack. They had already taken action and could not stop at all, so they could only comfort themselves in their hearts. The auras of the monks from the Tianchen world were all gone. It was promoted by some kind of treasure. Yin Zhenjai snorted coldly when he saw the monks attacking them. Black Dragon Dharma appearance. The next moment, a huge black dragon hovered above his head. Before the 10,000 magic realm monks in the fierce flame world could react, the black dragon spit out a huge ball of black flames. In just a moment, all the 10,000 magic realm monks who rushed up were burned to ashes. Even the soul does not exist. Seeing this scene, the monks in the flame world finally came to their senses. This was not a treasure that could enhance their aura. This person clearly had the strength to return to the ruins realm. Their Lai Emperor probably wouldn't be able to kill so many 8th level cultivators of the 10,000 Dharma realm at the same time, but this man did it easily. Lai Haoan finally realized at this time that they had kicked Wu Jin. Lai Haoan immediately said, "Senior, we don't mean to offend. We just heard that there is life in Tianchen world, so we wanted to come and inquire about it." Hearing Lai Haoan's words, Yin Zhenjai just sneered and said nothing. Lai Haoan continued, "Senior, we are leaving now." Lai Haoan guessed at this moment that Tianchen world had indeed been discovered by other forces, and Emperor Xia had probably joined them. Although the treasures in Tianchen world are tempting, their lives are more important. Just when Lai Haoan was about to escape, a young man in a white gold dragon robe flew out from the golden ferry boat. Xiao Liangji hurriedly reminded Lai Haoan at this time, "Your Majesty, this is the Emperor Xia." Hearing this, Lai Haoan frowned again. What's the point of saying this now? Emperor Xia has already joined the forces of the Gigzu realm, and they can't do anything to the Tianchen world. At this time, Lu Chen glanced at Lai Haoan. Name, Lai Haoan. Identity, Emperor of the Liayan dynasty in the Liayan world. Strength, 8th level of the transformation realm. Loyalty, -35. Seeing Lai Haoan's loyalty, Lu Chen laughed in his heart and had already listed him on the must-kill list. At this time, Yin Zhenjai said to Lu Chen respectfully, "Your Majesty, what should we do with these people next?" Seeing that the Gigzu realm strongman in the distance was so respectful to Lu Chen, everyone present suddenly felt a little nervous. They all thought that Emperor Xia had joined a powerful force or a high-level cultivation world. Now it seems that they were wrong. At this time, Emperor Lai said, "Emperor Xia is really well hidden, and there is such a powerful protector around him." Lu Chen smiled and said, "Emperor Lai said this as if he knew me. Without knowing the strength of Tianchen world, he dared to come and attack Tianchen world. Emperor Lai is really impulsive. Sometimes impulse often pays a great price. I wonder if Emperor Lai is ready." Lai Haoan asked with a gloomy face, "What does Emperor Xia plan to do?" End of this chapter. Chapter 827. If you want the world of flames, come and get it yourself. Although Lai Haoan was a little unwilling at this time, with the strong men from the ruins realm in front of them, and the fact that Lu Chen had more monks from the transformation realm than them, they could only tolerate it temporarily. However, Lai Haoan doesn't intend to let it go. He may not be a match for the powerful ones in the ruins realm, but he can leave the Chaos Star Sea and seek refuge in other advanced cultivation worlds or a certain dynasty. The powerful person who can set up restrictions to hide the two worlds is not only a saint but also an emperor. I believe that many people are still interested in the tombs of saints and emperors. Just as Lu Chen was about to say something, he saw Lai Haoan's loyalty drop to -100, and Lu Chen frowned slightly. If someone is not summoned by the system, then loyalty is equivalent to favorability. Lai Haoan's favorability towards him is actually so low. Negative loyalty is also the hatred value. The more negative the loyalty, the higher the hatred value. After Lai Haoan goes back, he will definitely not give up. People like this will definitely not be let go. Seeing that Lu Chen didn't speak, Lai Haoan continued, if Emperor Xia wants something, you can say it directly and I will treat it as an apology. The first step is to leave this dangerous place as soon as possible, and then he will find a way to find those higher worlds as a backer. Lu Chen asked at this time, I am very curious. The Tianchen world is just a low-level world. It needs resources but no resources, and the spiritual energy is also very thin. For a medium world, it is of no use at all. Why do you come to attack Tianchen world? After hearing this, Lai Haoan immediately said, the Chaos Star Sea is a place of death. There are very few worlds with life, so even if the Tianchen world is a low-level world, it will be useful to the Lian dynasty. Lai Haoan did not tell them their true purpose. Although the world with life is indeed important to Lian dynasty, what Lai Haoan and the others are most concerned about is naturally the possible treasures. Lu Chen said with a smile, is this really the case? You didn't come earlier and you didn't come late. Why do you suddenly think of it now? Hearing Lu Chen's words, Lai Haoan suddenly remembered something, and then he raised his hand. The next moment, a figure in the distance flew to Lai Haoan's hand. Gong Gai Liangpeng turned pale instantly. He thought he could use Lai Haoan's hand to destroy Tianchen world, but he didn't expect that Lai Haoan and the others had just arrived at Tianchen world, and they were intimidated by Tianchen world. Lai Haoan grabbed Gong Gai Liangpeng's neck and said to Lu Chen, Xia Huang, what happened this time was entirely because of this person's instigation of discord. As the culprit of this incident, I will hand him over to you and let him do whatever you want. How do you deal with it? Gong Gai Liangpeng struggled quickly and said while struggling, I am from Tianji Pavilion, you can't kill me. Whoever dares to offend Tianji Pavilion will end up with a bad end. Lai Haoan ignored Gong Gai Liangpeng's words and directly threw Gong Gai Liangpeng towards Lu Chen's position. Seeing that he was getting closer and closer to Lu Chen, Gong Gai Liangpeng was so frightened that he ran away quickly. But at this moment, a majestic spiritual power surged out of Lu Chen's body, and in an instant, invisible pressure enveloped everyone and the immortal boat in the void. Feeling this pressure, Lai Haoan's face became slightly pale. Return to the ruins realm. Emperor Xia is also in the ruins realm. How can this be? How on earth do those people who snoop for information do that? Even Emperor Xia didn't know that he was in the Gigzu realm. Just now, Lai Haoan and the others thought that Lu Chen had defected to a certain superpower. Now it seems that Emperor Xia is probably a member of a certain superpower. Just when Gong Gai Liangpeng was about to fly in front of Lu Chen slashed out with his sword, and a sword energy containing destructive power flew out. The next moment, Gong Gai Liangpeng's body instantly turned into a ball of blood. Fog. After dealing with Gong Gai Liangpeng, Lu Chen's eyes fell on Lai Haoan again. At this time, Lai Haoan felt vaguely uneasy. At present, he did not have the strength to fight against the return to ruins realm, not to mention that the other party still had to return to the ruins realm. Lai Haoan immediately said, since Emperor Xia has solved the culprit, I will not continue to waste Emperor Xia's time. Having said this, Lai Haoan turned around and said, let's go. Seeing Lai Haoan trying to escape, Lu Chen said calmly, I'm afraid Lai Huang will have to stay today. The Lai Emperor and I have the same mind. The Lai Emperor wants the Tianchen world, and I also want the Lai Flame world. I wonder if the Lai Emperor is willing to give up the Lai Flame world to me. As soon as these words came out, Lai Haoan and the monks from Lian dynasty suddenly changed their expressions. It seemed that they had been fooled. Emperor Xia must have deliberately lured them here and then took the opportunity to eliminate them. The world of fiery flames is a medium-sized world. If the battlefield is in the world of fiery flames, monks like them in the God Transformation realm and 10,000 Dharma realm can barely fight against the strong ones in the Return to Ruins realm with some formations. But now this is the void, and the strength of the monks above the realm of gods in the void can be fully exerted without the suppression of heaven. The most important thing is that this is not Lai Haoan's home field, and the formations they set up in the flame world cannot be used. Now, with the strength of several of their cultivators in the transformation of God realm, trying to withstand the attacks of the powerful ones in the ruins of Guisu realm is tantamount to wishful thinking. However, even though he knew that he might not be Lu Chen's opponent, Lai Haoan still said indifferently, Emperor Xia is so arrogant. If you want the world of flames, then come and get it yourself. While speaking, the aura on Lai Haoan's body was released instantly, and the next moment, a huge golden statue appeared above Lai Haoan's head. After Lai Haoan made his move, the several Huashan realm cultivators beside him looked at each other and did not make their move immediately, because they knew very well that they could not be the opponents of the two Gigzu realm masters. If they came from a high-level cultivation world with countless resources or spiritual weapons, they might still have the hope of killing the enemy across levels, but they were just cultivators in a deadly place like the Chaos Star Sea. Their strength was not very good to begin with, and they did not have powerful spiritual weapons, so how could they be the opponents of the Gigzu realm? However, they were still a little entangled in their hearts about betraying the Lion world. If they betrayed directly, if Lai Haoan sent back the spiritual information and told the prince who was in charge of the Lion world at the moment, then those people in the royal family would take action, and their descendants would probably be purged immediately. Seeing that the transformation realm cultivators nearby did not make a move, Xiao Liangji reminded them, everyone, are you going to just watch? Your descendants are still in the flame world. If Emperor Xia controls the flame world, will your descendants still be able to survive? Hearing this, the faces of the four transformation realm cultivators instantly darkened. Xiao Liangji's words were obviously threatening them. On the surface, it said that Emperor Xia would not let their descendants survive, but in fact, it was a warning to them. If they betrayed at this time, their descendants would be cleared out by the Flame Dynasty at the first opportunity. End of this chapter. Chapter 828. That sword is definitely a heavenly spiritual sword. Under the threat of Xiao Liangji, the other four monks in the God transformation realm in the flame world had to release their dharma. At this moment, Lai Haoan thought in his mind that although the strength of Gigzu realm was strong, the aura of Emperor Xia and his guardians were not stable, which meant that even if they had broken through to Gigzu realm, they probably had just broken through, or maybe they had just broken through. He was seriously injured and has not yet recovered. If he let the 5 gods around him help him drag him, plus the 2 earth-level treasures he accidentally obtained before, he might be able to escape. After escaping, he would go to other higher worlds to seek refuge with a certain superpower, and then tell that superpower about the treasures in Tianchen world. As long as he is alive, the Lion dynasty will return to his hands again. As for what will happen to his descendants, this is not something he should care about. As long as he does not die, the Lion dynasty will still exist, and his descendants will die. If you die, you will die. After his descendants die, he can completely create new descendants. For him, anything can be sacrificed as long as he can survive. Seeing that Lai Haoan and the others had put on a desperate attitude, Yin Zhenjai immediately said to Lu Chen, Your Majesty, let your subordinates go down and destroy them. Lu Chen said the word good lightly. After hearing Lu Chen's reply, Yin Zhenjai did not hesitate at all and summoned the Black Dragon Dharma appearance again. The moment the Black Dragon Dharma appeared, the monks in the void near them suddenly felt tremendous pressure. The next moment, the Black Dragon Dharma image flew out from Yin Zhenjai's head and headed straight for Lai Haoan and the others. Seeing this scene, before Lai Haoan could say anything, Xiao Liangji immediately said loudly, Everyone take action together. As soon as the words fell, everyone used their Dharma powers. However, when the Black Dragon's Dharma image collided with their Dharma image, it instantly shattered their Dharma image, and those monks in the realm of gods immediately spurted out a large mouthful of blood. Several people looked frightened. Is this the power of the Return to Ruins realm? This is something they cannot resist at all. What should they do now? Is it possible that they are all going to die here? Seeing the black dragon Dharma image getting closer and closer, Lai Haoan suddenly took out a small tower from the space ring, and the small tower instantly became extremely huge. When the black dragon magic collided on the top of the tower, it was difficult to move forward. Seeing this scene, several monks in the realm of transformation beside Lai Haoan were instantly ecstatic. They did not expect Lai Huang to have such a treasure. That's a strong person from the Gigzu realm. This tower can actually withstand the attack of a strong person from the Guisu realm. Seeing Lai Haoan blocking his attack, Yin Zhenjai frowned, and then he gathered his spiritual power and activated the black dragon Dharma image again. The black dragon Dharma image raised its head and spit out a mouthful of black flames directly towards the golden pagoda in front of Lai Haoan. But this still did not hurt Lai Haoan. Lu Chen took a look at the golden tower above Lai Haoan's head, and then asked in his mind, "System, what level of spiritual weapon is that tower?" In fact, Lu Chen had basically determined the level of the spiritual weapon, but he didn't dare to completely confirm it yet. At this time, the system replied, "Pseudo-celestial spiritual weapon." This. He originally guessed that it was a high-grade Earth-level spiritual weapon, but there is still such a thing as a pseudo-heaven-level spiritual weapon? The system continued, "Pseudo-heaven-level spiritual weapons have power close to low-grade heaven-level weapons, but they cannot match the power of real heaven-level spiritual weapons." Lu Chen thought to himself, "I don't need you to remind me to know that after all, it has the word fake in it, so naturally it cannot keep up with the real heaven-level spiritual weapons." But then again, in the world of intermediate cultivation, can we encounter pseudo-heaven-level spiritual weapons? In a world of advanced cultivation, heaven-level spiritual weapons wouldn't be everywhere, right? A fake heaven-level spiritual weapon can withstand the power of a powerful person with the strength of the ruins realm. If the real heaven-level spiritual weapon is in the hands of the God transformation realm, it may be really difficult to deal with it. Lu Chen didn't think anymore, he took out the God-slaying sword directly, and then he said to Yin Zhenjai, "Step back." Hearing this, Yin Zhenjai was stunned for a moment. This was in front of Lu Chen. After putting on the Shengui armor, he couldn't even kill a person in the realm of transformation. He was so useless. Yin Zhenjai said quickly, "Your Majesty, this subordinate is incompetent." Lu Chen said calmly, "It has nothing to do with you. It is a pseudo-heaven-level spiritual weapon, and it is not that easy to deal with." After the words fell, Lu Chen walked towards Lai Haoan and the others step by step in the void. When he saw Lu Chen walking towards them, Lai Haoan showed a sneer on his lips. Even Emperor Xia's protectors could not hurt him. How could the Emperor hurt him? It seems that it shouldn't be very difficult for him to escape. Thinking of this, Lai Haoan once again urged the shaking mountain tower. Town. As Lai Haoan uttered the word Zhen from his mouth, Zhenshan Tower instantly released a huge pressure. The people next to Lai Haoan could not resist the pressure, and they all vomited blood. However, what people didn't expect was that the Zhenshan Tower seemed to have no effect on Emperor Xia, and Emperor Xia was still walking towards them. Lu Chen has the Holy Glory armor on his body, plus he has the original power of protection in his body, so this pressure is nothing to him. At this time, Lu Chen raised the God-slaying sword in his hand. Seeing this sword, Xiao Liangji changed drastically. His clone was killed by this sword. Xiao Liangji quickly warned, "Your Majesty, be careful." As soon as Xiao Liangji finished speaking, Lu Chen waved the long sword in his hand. Ice 8th level sword. Then 8 rays of cold light passed through the golden pagoda, and the next moment, the golden pagoda was cut into several large pieces. Seeing this scene, Lai Haoan was shocked. What he had in his hand was a top-grade spiritual weapon. Some people even call this spiritual weapon a pseudo-heaven-level spiritual weapon. Just now, it withstood the power of the Dharma of a strong man in the ruins realm, but now it can't even block a sword. How can this be? Is Emperor Xia so powerful? Wrong. It's the sword in Emperor Xia's hand. That sword is definitely a heaven-level spiritual sword. This time, Lai Haoan was completely panicked. Emperor Xia was already a strong man in the ruins realm, and now he had a heaven-level spiritual weapon in his hand. How could he resist? No, we can no longer resist, we must escape as soon as possible. Then he turned around, preparing to let Xiao Liangji and the others stay to delay time while he escaped alone. However, the next moment, a spiritual sword suddenly penetrated Lai Haoan's chest. Lai Haoan looked at the person in front of him in disbelief. Xiao Liangji, you. After all, Lai Haoan was a cultivator in the realm of gods, but one sword could not kill him. After Lai Haoan came to his senses, he slapped Xiao Liangji with his palm, and Xiao Liangji immediately flew backwards. Seeing this scene, Lu Chen couldn't help laughing, and then he said, "It's really a dog-eat-dog show." At this time, Xiao Liangji in the distance said, "Your Majesty, Emperor Xia, all this is Lai Haoan's plan. We were forced to follow him to Tianchen world. We are willing to be loyal to you." Lai Haoan burst out laughing, and then said, "Xiao Liangji, I treat you as my brother in vain, you betrayed me at this time." Xiao Liangji said, "You have a clone, but I no longer have a clone. I can never die here. Monks in the realm of transformation generally have clones. Xiao Liangji's clone has been killed by Lu Chen. If it dies now, it will really die. But Lai Haoan is different. Even if Lai Haoan is beheaded, it is just a clone of him." End of chapter. Chapter 829. We are willing to surrender to the Great Xia Dynasty. Lai Haoan sneered. It was indeed only one of his clones that was here. But his clone was different from the ordinary clones. He did not have a main body and a secondary body. He used a special soul-splitting method to split the soul into two and created a new body. If his clone died, he would be severely injured and his strength would be greatly weakened. At this time, Lai Haoan continued, "You want to kill me, it's ridiculous." He really couldn't beat the strong man in the Gigzu realm, not to mention that Emperor Xia still had the heavenly grade spirit sword in his hand, but he could still defeat several cultivators in the god transformation realm. What he hated most in his life was the person who betrayed him. Even if this clone died, he would kill Xiao Liangji, the traitor. At this moment, Lai Haoan suddenly took out a treasure similar to the jade seal. Jinyan seal. The next moment, the treasure became extremely huge and rolled directly towards Xiao Liangji. Seeing this scene, Xiao Liangji was stunned. What happened? Lai Haoan had obviously been severely injured by him, so how could Lai Haoan still activate the jade gold seal? They were in the void, and there was no land in the void, so it was reasonable that Xiao Liangji could escape directly to the void below, but at this time his body seemed to be imprisoned and he could not move at all. Seeing that the huge golden seal was getting closer and closer, Xiao Liangji hurriedly looked in the direction of Lu Chen. "Emperor Xia, save me." However, Lu Chen did not move at all. He saw from the top of Xiao Liangji's head that Xiao Liangji's loyalty was also negative. After all, he killed one of Xiao Liangji's clones. How could Xiao Liangji have a good impression of him? Such a person would betray him sooner or later. It would be better to let Lai Haoan kill him directly. Seeing that Lu Chen was unmoved, Lai Haoan laughed, "Xiao Liangji, you didn't expect that you wanted to surrender to the new master, but unfortunately others don't think highly of you at all." At this point, Lai Haoan shouted, "Die!" The next moment, the jade gold seal smashed directly at Xiao Liangji from the void. Xiao Liangji immediately burned his soul and tried to block the jade gold seal, but he had just lost a clone not long ago, and his strength was greatly reduced. He had no way to resist Lai Haoan's full strength attack. Soon, the jade gold seal smashed the spiritual shield that protected him and smashed directly onto Xiao Liangji's body, and a piece of land seemed to appear under Xiao Liangji's feet, blocking Xiao Liangji's retreat. Soon, Xiao Liangji was smashed into a pool by the jade gold seal. However, it is not so easy for a cultivator in the transformation realm to die. Even if the body of a cultivator in the transformation realm is destroyed, the soul can still continue to exist. As long as the soul is not dead, it is not considered true death. After Xiao Liangji's body was crushed, his soul immediately fled to the distance. Seeing that Xiao Liangji was about to escape, Lai Haoan activated the jade gold seal again, and then a huge seal flew out of the jade gold seal, instantly crushing Xiao Liangji's soul. After getting rid of Xiao Liangji, Lai Haoan spit out blood again. At this time, the other several cultivators in the God transformation realm looked at each other, not knowing what to do. If they betrayed Lai Haoan now, they would probably end up like Xiao Liangji, and their descendants would probably be slaughtered. But even if they stood firmly on Lai Haoan's side at this time, Lai Haoan was also at the end of his strength, and it was only a matter of time before Lai Haoan fell. When they were defeated, their descendants would also be likely to be destroyed by Emperor Xia. At this time, several people looked at each other again. They had already used the method of spiritual consciousness to inform their descendants of the changes that had happened here, telling them to be careful of the Flame Dynasty and it would be best to find a place to hide. I don't know if there is still time. At this moment, Lai Haoan spat out a mouthful of blood again, looked up at Lu Chen in the distance, and then said, "Even if I want to die, I will never let you have an easy time." Speaking of this, Lai Haoan activated the jade gold seal again. Lu Chen glanced at the huge golden seal and asked the system again, "What kind of spiritual weapon is this?" The system replied, "This is the spiritual weapon of the cultivator's life bred with blood essence, and it has the power of an earth-level spiritual weapon." Lu Chen thought to himself that since it was only an earth-level spiritual weapon, it was highly likely that it could not block his sword, so let's end it. Then Lu Chen moved his spiritual power around him and activated the god-slaying sword. The next moment, huge sun anomalies appeared behind Lu Chen. Moving stars 10,000 swords power. Immediately afterwards, countless golden giant swords stabbed at Lai Haoan. Lai Haoan hurriedly activated the jade gold seal, hoping to rely on the jade gold seal to block Lu Chen's attack. However, when those golden giant swords touched the jade gold seal, they instantly pierced through it, and then the jade gold seal was shattered into countless pieces. At this time, Lai Haoan was also pierced directly by those golden giant swords, and even his soul was shattered. Seeing this scene, the remaining 4 transformation realm cultivators were directly stagnant in the void. Too powerful. Lai Haoan was no match for the opponent even with the earth-level spiritual weapon. They were not even as good as Lai Haoan, so how could they be the opponent of Emperor Xia? Several people looked at each other again. They were now in a dilemma. If they did not surrender, they would die. If they surrendered, I am afraid that before they returned to the Flame Dynasty, their descendants would have been slaughtered. Lu Chen glanced at the loyalty above the heads of those transformation realm cultivators. Their loyalty was already 70, which was enough to show that they had lost their will to fight. Lu Chen then said, "I am not a murderer. I can give you a chance to live. As long as you are willing to surrender, I will let you go, including your descendants." Several people also understood that if Emperor Xia wanted to kill them, it would be easy, but if they really surrendered, their descendants would probably suffer a catastrophe immediately. Just when several people thought about this, Lu Chen said lightly, "If you surrender earlier, you may be able to reach the fiery world before the Emperor's clone cleans up your respective forces." Hearing this, people were stunned, and then reacted, and hurriedly said in unison, "We are willing to surrender to the Great Xia Dynasty and never betray in this life." Hearing this, Lu Chen immediately said, "Your immortal boat is too slow, I'll come to the immortal boat of Great Xia." Seeing Lu Chen say this, everyone didn't think much, and then most of the cultivators in the fiery world boarded the immortal boat of the Tianchen world. The immortal boat of Tianchen world was brought by Yin Zhenjai from the Black Dragon Holy Land. The immortal boat built in the Black Dragon Holy Land is naturally not comparable to the immortal boat built in the Flame world. The most obvious point is the speed. In just a blink of an eye, Fiheng immortal boat brought other immortal boats to the outside of the flame world. At the same time, Flame Dynasty, the palace. In a hall under the palace, a young man suddenly increased his eyes, and then a mouthful of blood spurted out. A ruthless look flashed in his eyes, and then he said, "Come here." A soldier entered the room a moment later, saluted to the man and said, "Greetings to His Royal Highness the Crown Prince." Lai Haoan said, "Pass on my order." Xiao Liangji betrayed the flame world and immediately exterminated the Xiao family. The crown prince of the Flame Dynasty is Lai Haoan's clone. In order to keep power firmly in his hands, he adopted this method, and he has said countless times that as long as he is not there, the crown prince's order is his order. End of this chapter. Chapter 830. It seems we have to leave this star region. After hearing Lai Haoan's order, the soldier was stunned on the spot. You know, Xiao Liangji is the king of a different surname who has the best relationship with His Majesty. His Royal Highness the Crown Prince actually wants people to kill the entire Qi Wang clan? Seeing the soldier standing there motionless, Lai Haoan said coldly, "Don't you understand what I said?" After the soldier came to his senses, he hurriedly said, "Your Highness, calm down, I'll go now." The Emperor has said countless times that when he is not there, the Crown Prince's orders are his orders. Since the Crown Prince has given the order, the people below can only do what he says. After the soldier left, Lai Haoan spit out blood again. At this time, he felt a splitting headache. The loss of half of his soul not only made his strength drop sharply, but also made him extremely painful. Lai Haoan shouted and said, "If I don't take revenge, I swear I will not be a human being." Although he wanted to take revenge in his heart, Lai Haoan also understood that he did not have the strength to compete with Gigzu realm now. If he wanted to take revenge, he had to go to other high-level cultivation worlds to find a backer. Thinking of this, Lai Haoan clenched his fist. He had never left the Chaos Star Sea. Even when the deadline was approaching, he had always stayed in the Chaos Star Sea. It was not because he could not leave this place, but because he was very afraid of losing everything he had now. In the Flame world, he was the emperor, but in the advanced cultivation world, there were half-saints everywhere, and Gigzu was worse than a dog. He was the kind of person who would rather be a chicken head than a phoenix tail. If he could be the emperor in the Flame world, why would he be a dog for others? But now it seems that if he wants revenge, he may really have to be a dog for others. At this time, Lai Haoan walked towards the door. The most urgent thing was to leave the Flame world as soon as possible. Maybe Emperor Xia was already on his way to the Flame world. Soon, Lai Haoan left the Flame world. As for whether his soldiers executed his orders just now, he no longer cared. When he comes back one day, if the descendants of Xiao Liangji are still alive, he can still exterminate them all, so there is no need to rush for this moment. It is important to escape. Deep in the palace, in a quiet palace, a woman in a red dress was practicing, and suddenly she opened her eyes. Then she stood up and walked to the door and looked up at the sky. The palace she was in was extremely deserted, with only one or two palace maids in the huge palace. Seeing the woman in white come out, the two palace maids hurried over and asked, "Princess, what do you want?" The woman glanced at the sky and then said lightly, "Nothing." After hearing this, the two palace maids returned to their original positions again. After a while, the woman in red said to herself, "It seems that I have to leave this star field." Not long after, the entire Flame Dynasty was in chaos. It was obvious that all forces had basically received the spiritual message from their ancestors. After the royal family learned that the Flame world was defeated, they hurried to find the prince and wanted to discuss ideas with him. As a result, people searched the entire capital and did not find the prince. The prince seemed to have disappeared. Without the crown prince, the entire capital city was in chaos, but people had no way to escape. Their immortal boats had been sent out. Without immortal boats, ordinary cultivators could not stay in the void. Those cultivators in the Wanfa realm could try to build a world channel and then leave this world. At this time, none of the major forces in the flame world wanted to resist, because in their opinion, the strong men in the Huashan realm of the flame world had been defeated, and they who were still in the flame world would be even less likely to be the opponents of the Tianchen world. Although there were many formations in the flame world, the people in the flame world had lost their fighting spirit at this time. This was the case in a world that overemphasized the law of the jungle. As long as the strong were defeated, the remaining weak would immediately follow the new strong. For most people, whoever ruled was the ruler, and it had nothing to do with them. Not long after, the boundary wall of the flame world began to turbulent, and a series of immortal boats passed through the boundary wall of the flame world, causing ripples. Seeing the immortal boat in the sky, the people of the flame world all showed horror on their faces. Although whoever rules is the ruler, no one can say whether the new ruler is a cruel person. Although the former emperor also oppressed the people, people could still barely survive, but the lower-level cultivators had no cultivation resources. The Fihung immortal boat easily arrived above the capital of the Flame Dynasty, and did not encounter any obstruction or resistance during this period. Their immortal boat also pressed the elders and ancestors of various forces in the flame world, so the people of this world naturally did not dare to act rashly. At this time, Yin Zhenjai said, "The Flame Dynasty invaded my Great Xia Dynasty. Now that the emperor is dead, the ancestors and elders of your major forces have surrendered." As soon as these words came out, the entire capital was quiet. Since the unification of the Flame Dynasty, there has been no major civil strife in the entire Flame Dynasty, and no such thing has happened. I didn't expect that the Flame Dynasty would be destroyed directly when it faced foreign enemies for the first time. Didn't the emperor say before he set out that they had discovered only a low-level world? How could a low-level world be so powerful? Yin Zhenjai said to Lu Chen at this time, "Your Majesty, how do we deal with the royal family members of the Flame Dynasty?" Yin Zhenjai was unsure of Lu Chen's thoughts. If it were him, he would choose to kill all those people without hesitation, but Lu Chen was different. Lu Chen was not a murderer. Lu Chen said lightly, "Imprison them all first." Yin Zhenjai said, "Yes, Your Majesty." Then Yin Zhenjai led the War Dragon army to rush into the capital of the Flame Dynasty. Not long after, bursts of roars were heard in the palace. At this time, Lu Chen did not pay attention to the movement in the palace. He circulated his spiritual power and felt the suppression of him between heaven and earth. From the moment he entered the flame world, he felt that the power in his body was suppressed invisibly. If he could exert the strength of the Gigzu realm in the void, then he could only exert the strength of the first and second levels of the Huashan realm in the flame world at most. Lu Chen thought to himself, "Is this the suppression of the cultivators by the complete law of heaven?" Then Lu Chen asked the system, "Is it true that the higher the level of the cultivation world, the more severe the suppression of the cultivators' strength?" The system replied, "Yes. In order to prevent the strong from destroying the entire world, the heavens of each world will try their best to suppress the strength of the cultivators, especially those worlds with relatively complete laws. The Tianchen world and Xiang world are only low-level worlds, and there are no sound laws, so they cannot suppress the strength of the cultivators, and the worlds cannot withstand the fights of the strong in the God transformation realm. But the flame world is different. The cultivators in the God transformation realm can attack at will in the flame world." Lu Chen did not care too much about such suppression, after all, as long as he entered this world. The strength of all cultivators will be suppressed, and the strong will naturally remain strong. End of this chapter. Subscribe to Chinese Novel Audio Wave. Chapter 831 Why would I want to get involved in such trouble? At this time, Lu Chen tried to communicate with the heavenly Dao of the raging flame world, but the heavenly Dao of this world did not respond and ignored him at all. Lu Chen chuckled, and then he activated his original power and released the breath of the original power. The next moment, a faint consciousness appeared in Lu Chen's mind. Tiandao couldn't speak, but because of the power of the source, Lu Chen could easily understand Tiandao's meaning. Tiandao saw that he was not an ordinary person, so he wanted to know what he was doing here. The power of the origin is the supreme power of the universe and cannot be possessed by ordinary people. The heavenly Dao of the flame world also felt a little fear towards Lu Chen. Lu Chen then said to Tiandao of the raging flame world, I came to this world, firstly, to control the entire raging flame world, and secondly, for the destiny of the raging flame world. As soon as these words came out, the world of raging flames suddenly trembled, and almost all the monks in the world of raging flames felt the earth shaking. People were frightened by this scene. Nothing like this had ever happened in Lian world before. Now that the invaders from Tianchen world came, the entire Lian world suddenly shook. Could it be that the invaders from Tianchen world wanted to destroy the entire Lian world? Lu Chen felt that the heavenly way of the flame world was very angry. For the heavenly way of a world, luck is very important. If there is no luck, then the world is likely to disappear and gradually die. Lu Chen then smiled and said to Tiandao world, don't be so angry, I only want half of the luck, and only once. You should know very well that if it is only half of the luck, it will not cause any harm to you, and you don't need to too worried. Hearing this, the consciousness of heaven in the Lian world once again expressed its truth and wanted to expel Lu Chen. At this time, Lu Chen felt a force that repelled him, as if he wanted to push himself out of the Lian world. Lu Chen immediately called on the power of his origin to resist this force that was squeezing him out. Under the resistance of the power of his origin, the heavenly law of the blazing world was completely unable to send Lu Chen out of the world of blazing flames. After all, even the world of advanced cultivation, or some powerful holy places, are only part of this universe. As a part of this universe, you will naturally be suppressed by the laws of this universe. The power of the source contains the supreme law. The flame world is a medium-sized world, and it is obviously impossible to compete with the original power of the supreme law. After feeling that it was powerless against Lu Chen, the consciousness of heaven in the flame world was simply broken. This was the first time it encountered a human monk with the power of origin, which was obviously not something it could deal with. If it were just ordinary monks, especially those in the world of flames, it might be able to kill them with a few thunderbolts. But like the monk in front of him who possesses the original power and is protected by the laws of the original power, there is really nothing he can do against him. Seeing that the consciousness of heaven's Dao has been broken, Lu Chen's lips slightly raised. Next, one of his wives will be blessed again. At this moment, in a certain palace in the Lian Palace, a woman in red looked up at the distant sky, her eyebrows slightly furrowed, as if she had discovered something extraordinary. She frowned for the first time since she was born. For her, a reborn person, nothing in the fiery world could threaten her in the past. Even if she had noticed that the Tianchen world had come over, she was still not afraid at all. Not give a damn about. For her, the flame world is just a temporary place to stay. She will leave sooner or later one day, and even if the people from Tianchen world arrive, they cannot stop her from leaving, so she is not panicked at all, nor is she in a hurry to leave. The result was that taking a step too late allowed her to see something incredible. Li Hongyun possesses the soul of the great emperor, so she can clearly sense that the consciousness of heaven in this world is communicating with a young man on the ferry boat, and the consciousness of heaven seems to be afraid of that young man. The consciousness of heaven had just tried to drive the man out of the world of flames, but it failed, and in the end it chose to compromise. Who is this young man who can withstand the power of heaven in a middle-sized world? Judging from the information she just received, it seems that Tianchen world has strong people in the Guisu realm, but even strong people in the Guisu realm should not be able to withstand the expulsion of the consciousness of heaven. Moreover, the consciousness of heaven is still afraid of this man. Who is this man? He can actually scare the consciousness of heaven. Even a strong saint realm man cannot scare the consciousness of heaven in a middle-level world. Only the great emperor has this ability. Could it be that the young man is the great emperor, but judging from the aura on his body, he is not the great emperor? If it was the emperor, she must have felt the emperor's aura when he entered the world of flames. It seems that the world of flames cannot stay anymore. Thinking of this, Lai Hongyun immediately prepared to leave. However, at this moment, a man's voice sounded in the yard. "Where do you want to go, princess?" Lai Hongyun glanced at the person who came, and she instantly judged that the opponent's strength was only at the God transformation realm, and then she said expressionlessly, "It seems that the strength of the monks at the God transformation realm can be directly improved to be comparable to the return to ruins realm. It is indeed possible that there is a tomb of the great emperor." Seeing Lai Hongyun see through his realm at a glance, Yin Zhenjai just smiled faintly. He was not surprised at all, because he felt a sense of oppression when he entered the courtyard. It was obvious that Lai Hongyun's realm was above her. This woman is definitely not an ordinary princess. Yin Zhenjai then said, "I am very confused. Your Highness the princess is also a strong person in the ruins realm. Why doesn't she protect the world of flames?" Lai Hongyun said expressionlessly, "I am only staying here temporarily. Why should I be involved in such troublesome things?" Hearing this, Yin Zhenjai was slightly stunned. This woman was also the princess of the Lian dynasty, but she had no sense of belonging to the Lian dynasty at all. But yes, this situation is very common in the world of cultivation. Some monks never go back after leaving home. It can almost be said that they have abandoned their family ties and only want to achieve immortality. It seems that this woman is like this too. At this moment, Yin Zhenjai directly sent a message to Lu Chen in the sky, "Your Majesty, my subordinates discovered a strong man from the ruins realm in the palace." Upon hearing this, Lu Chen, who was communicating with heaven on the immortal boat, instantly came back to his senses. "Return to the ruins realm?" Lu Chen frowned slightly, and then asked, "Are you sure the other party is in the ruins realm?" Yin Zhenjai replied, "I am sure that the woman gave me a very strong sense of oppression. Only a strong person above the Gigzu realm can have such power." Lu Chen felt confused. What was a monk who had returned to the ruins realm come to a medium world like the flame world? Or is this person originally from the flame world? If that's the case, then why didn't that person take action when he saw the flame world being invaded? End of chapter. Chapter 832. Because I believe you won. And number 039, T. Lu Chen was full of curiosity about what Yin Zhenjai said about the strong people in the Guisu realm. Although he now has the strength of the Guisu realm, he is not the real Guisu realm. If he faced a truly powerful person from the Return to Ruins realm, he was not sure whether he was a match for him. Let's go take a look first. After all, he is also a person with the original power, so there is no need to worry too much. Then Lu Chen sent a message and said, "You wait there first, I will come right away." Then Lu Chen sensed Yin Zhenjai's position, and the next moment, he transformed and appeared directly next to Yin Zhenjai. When Lu Chen appeared, Lai Hongyun was slightly startled. Judging from his breath, the young man in front of him was the man who communicated with heaven just now. Lu Chen was wearing white clothes with gold trim today. He looked like a tree in the wind, elegant and extremely handsome. Even though Lai Hongyun had seen many handsome men, he still felt that the appearance of the man in front of him was particularly outstanding. Lai Hongyun was sizing up Lu Chen, and Lu Chen was also sizing up Lai Hongyun. Lu Chen used the system to identify Lai Hongyun's information. Name, Lai Hongyun. Identity, the reincarnation of the Empress, the daughter of the Lai Emperor, and the 9th princess of the Lian dynasty. Now she has the strength of the first level of the Return to Ruins realm. She is very curious about why Emperor Xia can intimidate the consciousness of heaven. She suspects that Emperor Xia is also the reincarnation of the Great Emperor. Rating, 99. Favorability, 60. Seeing Lai Hongyun's score of 99, Lu Chen's eyes instantly lit up, but he quickly realized that Lai Hongyun had the strength of the Return to Ruins realm, and he was the reincarnation of the Empress, so it might not be easy to fool him. Seeing Lu Chen staring at her, Lai Hongyun suddenly felt a little displeased in her heart. She was an emperor in her previous life, and few people dared to stare at her so directly. At this time, Lu Chen asked the system in his heart, "System, is the so-called empress the empress of a certain dynasty, or did she have the strength of an emperor in her previous life?" The word empress has multiple interpretations, and he had to figure out what the specific meaning of empress was. The empress's knowledge is different from that of the emperor. Knowing her specific identity in her previous life will be more helpful in attacking her. The system replied at this time, "Female emperor." After hearing the system's answer, Lu Chen sighed slightly in his heart, "Great emperor, that would be really difficult to handle. Now that the other party has the strength of the Ruins realm, it would be very difficult for him to force her to stay. The hard one is not good, and the soft one is probably not good. After all, the other person was the emperor in the previous life, and he has never seen anything. If he wants to persuade her to stay, I am afraid that it is really impossible without some means." After thinking about it, Lu Chen said directly, "Is the princess planning to leave the Lian dynasty?" Hearing this question, Lai Hongyun felt a little confused. If he didn't leave Lian dynasty, could he stay here and be his slave girl? Lai Hongyun then said, "Now that the Lian world is under your control, the Lian dynasty has been destroyed. If I don't leave the Lian world, why are you still here?" Lu Chen smiled and said, "Who said the Lian dynasty was destroyed?" Hearing this, Lai Hongyun instantly understood what Lu Chen meant. Is Emperor Xia planning to support a puppet emperor? Lai Hongyun had already guessed Lu Chen's identity at this time. Although Lu Chen was not wearing a dragon robe, from the information she had collected previously, she could basically guess that the person in front of her was Emperor Xia. Emperor Xia said that the Lian dynasty would not destroy the country, so it was most likely that Emperor Xia wanted to support a puppet emperor and help him control the world of Lian. This kind of thing is very common in the universe, especially those high-level dynasties that control dozens of star fields. If they cannot manage it, they will unfeff countless dynasties and let those dynasties manage it for them. Obviously, this Emperor Xia is not an ordinary person, so he cannot always stay in the Chaos Star Sea, a star field with exhausted spiritual energy. He will definitely go out. In this case, the Flame World will need to find someone to help manage it. After hearing Lai Hongyun's words, Lu Chen said, "As expected of the reincarnation of the Empress, she is really smart." Hearing this, a cold light flashed in Lai Hongyun's eyes. She did not expect that the person in front of her could see through her identity at a glance. However, Lai Hongyun soon realized that he doubted whether this man was the reincarnation of some great emperor. It seemed normal for him to think that he was the reincarnation of the Empress. Lai Hongyun then said, "The reincarnation of the Empress? What does Emperor Xia mean by this? Why can't I understand it?" Lu Chen said calmly, "You don't need to act anymore. When I came into contact with you, I realized that your soul is very powerful. Only the reincarnation of the great emperor can have such a powerful soul." Lai Hongyun said, "So, Emperor Xia is also the reincarnation of a certain great emperor. Because only the emperor can peek at the strength of the emperor's soul, and Lu Chen can peek at the strength of her soul without her noticing, it proves that Lu Chen also has a more powerful soul, which means that Lu Chen was also the emperor in his previous life." Lu Chen said, "There is nothing to hide, I am indeed the reincarnation of the emperor." Hearing Lu Chen's affirmative answer, Lai Hongyun thought that it was indeed what she thought. But then she continued, "Xia Emperor dares to reveal his identity. Is it possible that he wants to force me to stay? Under normal circumstances, the reincarnation of strong people is very afraid of revenge. After all, they may have many enemies in their previous lives. If those people know that they have become so weak after reincarnation, they will definitely find a way to kill them before they grow up. Kill. So generally, after reincarnation, the emperor would try every means to conceal his true identity. Now, Emperor Xia actually told her that he was the reincarnated emperor. They were not close friends, so Emperor Xia just revealed his biggest secret. There is only one possibility, that is, Emperor Xia intends to force her to stay, so he doesn't care whether his identity will be leaked. Hearing Lai Hongyun's question, Lu Chen smiled faintly, and then said, "You have the strength of Gigzu realm. It is impossible to force you to stay." "I don't intend to do so." Lai Hongyun continued to ask, "Aren't you afraid that I will tell others about you? Do you think that I am also the reincarnation of the emperor, so even if there is a handle in your hand? If so, then you are too naive. The one who wants to kill the reincarnated emperor the most in this world is usually another reincarnated emperor. The emperor is usually reincarnated for some special reasons. The reincarnated emperor wants to return to the throne of the emperor, and many of the things he needs are the same. For the reincarnated emperor, the other reincarnated emperor is a competitor. Therefore, for the reincarnated emperor, the most dangerous one is the reincarnated emperor who shares the same secret with him." Lu Chen said with a smile, "I am not worried about these things, because I believe you will not." Lai Hongyun was stunned for a moment. It was the first time she met someone who believed in her so much when they first met her. End of this chapter. Chapter 833 Tell your story. Lai Hongyun reacted quickly and laughed, "Since your majesty knows that I was the great emperor in my previous life, you should understand that the great emperor is not a little girl." Lai Hongyun had already heard the ambiguity in Lu Chen's words. Lu Chen didn't really believe her, but had a purpose. After all, Lai Hongyun was an emperor who had lived for who knows how many years, and had never heard any sweet words. Although she was devoted to Taoism in her previous life and had never found a man, after living for so many years, she still knew very well what a man was like. Lai Hongyun continued, "If Emperor Xia has nothing to do, I will leave first. Of course, you can also try to take action against me. Although I don't know what spiritual weapon you used to increase your strength to the return to Ruin's realm, the fake ones are just fake." Hearing this, Lu Chen thought to himself, "Is there really nothing that can be done about it?" After finally meeting a woman with a score of 90, how could he just let her go? But if he really fought, not only would he lose his favor, but he might not be able to keep her. He has the power of origin, so he can fight with her, but it is not that easy to catch her. Lai Hongyun saw that Lu Chen had no reaction and seemed to have no intention of stopping her from leaving, so she said nothing more. Then, she slowly raised her delicate hand, and the next moment, a huge black hole appeared in front of her palm. This is the true master of the Ruins realm. It only takes a moment to build a world passage in the middle world. But just as she was about to leave, Lu Chen asked, "If the emperor reincarnates and wants to return to the top again, he will need a lot of resources, right?" Lai Hongyun turned his head slightly, looked at Lu Chen and asked, "Just say what Emperor Xia wants to say." Lu Chen smiled and said, "If you are willing to stay in the flame world and become the empress, I can provide you with the training resources you need." Hearing this, Lai Hongyun felt a little speechless. This man was also the reincarnation of the great emperor. Why was he so naive? Provide training resources? Not to mention that he must have an ulterior motive for wanting her to stay. Even if she did stay, what resources could he provide for himself? In a remote place like Chaos Xingai, there weren't many training resources she needed. Lai Hongyun then asked, "Why does Emperor Xia provide cultivation resources to me?" Lai Hongyun could naturally see through what Lu Chen was thinking at a glance, but she didn't have that kind of male-female feeling towards Lu Chen. Although she did feel that Lu Chen was very handsome in her heart, she had almost never seen him like this even in her previous life. A man born from the dust. But she was the same as in her previous life, her mind was on cultivation and she had no interest in the relationship between men and women. Lu Chen said directly at this time, I can calculate heavenly secrets. When I first saw you, I calculated that you will become my Taoist companion in the future. Hearing this, Lai Hongyun was even more speechless. What kind of clichés were these? Then Lai Hongyun said, since you think that I will become your Taoist companion in the future, why are you in a hurry for this moment? This. Lai Hongyun continued, or are you actually lying? You don't know how to calculate the secrets at all. Do you want to keep me here? Lu Chen came back to his senses. He also knew that Lai Hongyun was not easy to fool, so he immediately said, I do know how to divine secrets, and I do want you to stay. It depends on what you think. If you insist on leaving, I will not force you to stay. Lai Hongyun immediately said, in that case, see you at the top. After the words fell, Lai Hongyun did not give Lu Chen any chance to stay, and directly entered the world passage and left the world of flames. Lu Chen felt a little disappointed in his heart. Now he has no shortage of women. Even if Lai Hongyun leaves, there will be no loss for him, but he just feels extremely pity and a little regretful in his heart. Forget it, he has met so many women with scores over 90 in both the low and middle worlds. When he leaves this star field in the future, there may be even more women with scores over 90, so there is no need for him to be so anxious. Now he is still trying to find a way to let his wives and concubines give birth to more sub-worlds. The sub-worlds not only allow him to obtain the original power, but also benefit his wives and concubines. Chu Yukan and Musixuan's current realms are rapidly improving, and their luck is becoming more and more prosperous. The sum of the luck of the intelligent life forms in the sub-world is the luck of the two of them, so with their huge fortunes gathered together, they will definitely become emperors in the future. After Lai Hongyun left, Lu Chen turned to Yin Zhenjai and said, find a prince who is suitable to be the emperor. Yin Zhenjai immediately understood what Lu Chen meant and immediately said, yes, your majesty, I will go right away. Obviously, Lu Chen did not intend to directly incorporate the Lian dynasty into the Great Xia Dynasty. Like Xiang world, he was ready to find someone to help them manage the entire world on their behalf. Soon, Yin Zhenjai found a suitable prince and brought him to Lu Chen. What Yin Zhenjai found was a young man who looked a little thin and had the strength of the first level of the creation realm. Lu Chen then glanced at this man's information. Name, Lai Wenda. Identity, the 256th Prince of the Flame Dynasty in the World of Flames. Strength, first level of Creation Realm. Loyalty, 9-5. Such high loyalty? Lu Chen was confused for a second, then he immediately understood what was going on. He then asked Lai Wenda, do you want to be the emperor? Hearing this, Lai Wenda was stunned. He didn't expect that this Gigzu realm strongman brought him here for the throne. But he was not stupid. He knew very well why Emperor Xia wanted him to be the new emperor of the Flame Dynasty. It was obviously to control him. But he didn't care about it at all. Even if he was a puppet emperor, it would be better than the previous life. Lai Wenda then said, it's all up to your majesty to arrange. Lai Wenda was very humble and didn't say whether he wanted to or not. After all, he was a prisoner now and had no right to make any choice. He had to do whatever the other party asked him to do. Lu Chen asked at this time, I am a little curious. You seem to be very happy to see the Flame Dynasty being controlled by foreign invaders. Lai Wenda was stunned. Just when he was about to say something, Yin Zhenjai said, Your Majesty, when I found him, he was imprisoned in the mansion and trapped by a magic circle that absorbs blood and essence. Lu Chen instantly became interested, so he said to Lai Wenda, tell your story. Lai Wenda said directly, my mother was a palace maid. My father was obsessed with cultivation and favored my mother, and eventually gave birth to me. Hundreds of years ago, my father got a cultivation method from somewhere, which required the blood and essence of a close relative. Because I was born to a palace maid and had no status, and my father had many children, sacrificing a few children was nothing to him, so he imprisoned me and used my blood and essence to cultivate. Okay, that's enough. Lu Chen interrupted. End of this chapter. Chapter 834. Why did this lady suddenly have a marriage clue? Lu Chen has read a lot of online novels, and Lai Wenda's life experience gave him a strong sense of déjà vu. No wonder Lai Wenda had a loyalty of 95% when he first saw him. I'm afraid that in Lai Wenda's eyes, they were not invaders, but benefactors who saved him. If it weren't for their arrival, Lai Wenda would probably still be imprisoned and continue to be extracted for Lai Haoan's cultivation. Even if the Great Xia Dynasty killed him, he would have to thank the Great Xia Dynasty for helping him to be free. It would be worse than death to have his blood extracted all the time. Lu Chen said at this time, "Since I saved you, you should know what to do next." Hearing this, Lai Wenda took out a drop of blood from his forehead without hesitation. "This is my life blood, from now on, I am your servant." Lai Wenda directly handed over his life blood. On the one hand, Lu Chen did have a favor for him, and on the other hand, he also understood that the Flame Dynasty was now controlled by Emperor Xia, and the entire royal family, including him, had no choice. If they voluntarily surrender their life essence, they can live longer. If they are unwilling to surrender their life essence, then they will probably die. Lu Chen did not hesitate and directly collected Lai Wenda's life essence. Then he said, "You are a smart man. From now on, you will be the new emperor of the Great Xia Dynasty." Lai Wenda immediately said, "Thank you, my lord." Lu Chen then said to Yin Zhenjai, "That's it. The next thing is up to you. I'm going back to the immortal boat. The next step is to support Lai Wenda to ascend the throne and then clean up the resistance forces in this world. They have already conquered a world and have enough experience. Lu Chen does not need to do everything himself." Yin Zhenjai said, "Yes, Your Majesty." "Farewell, Your Majesty." As soon as Yin Zhenjai finished speaking, Lu Chen's body disappeared on the spot. Yin Zhenjai's gaze returned to Lai Wenda. "Let's go, follow me to see the civil and military officials of your Lion dynasty and your brothers and sisters." At this moment, the square outside the Lion dynasty's council hall was already full of people. The civil and military officials of the court were basically all present, and the leaders of the major forces were basically all here. Of course, the royal family was also there. The square was very noisy, and people were speculating about what would happen in the future. Alas, I didn't expect that the Lion dynasty would have this day. I don't know if Emperor Xia will kill us all. It shouldn't be. If Emperor Xia wants to kill us, the ancestors and elders who participated in the attack on the Tianchen world will not be able to come back alive. You're right, we will definitely be fine, but the Lai family may be in trouble. Some of the people present were frowning, and some were gloating. They all knew in their hearts that the sky of the Lion world was going to change. After an unknown amount of time, Yin Zhenjai brought Lai Wenda to the square. The moment Yin Zhenjai arrived at the square, he directly released his pressure. The people present instantly felt a huge pressure, and some people who were timid and weak knelt directly on the ground. People's eyes showed fear. Is this a strong man in Gigzu realm? This breath is too terrible. At this time, Yin Zhenjai said, "From today, Lai Wenda is the new emperor of Lion dynasty." As soon as these words came out, the people present were stunned. Lai Wenda? Is he the prince born by the palace girl and imprisoned by Emperor Lai for rebellion? Emperor Lai has many children, and the people present don't know all the princes and princesses. The reason why people know Lai Wenda is mainly because Lai Wenda was once a genius. His cultivation speed is very fast. Many people even think that even if he can't be a prince because of his mother's identity, he can be crowned king in the future and have a territory of his own. But Lai Wenda was later found to be suspected of treason, and then he was imprisoned by the emperor. From then on, Lai Wenda's realm fell again and again, and people didn't have any news about him later. At this time, many people who knew the inside story were a little surprised. Lai Wenda was still alive after being drained of blood for so many years. They thought Lai Wenda had died long ago. If Lai Wenda became a puppet emperor, I am afraid that the members of the royal family would suffer. Those princes and princesses humiliated and tortured him a lot in the past. Once Lai Wenda came to power, he might first attack the members of the royal family. After all, this was also a token of his loyalty to Emperor Xia. Not killing his own people does not prove his loyalty. Suddenly, a prince stood up and said, "Senior, I wonder if the position of emperor was decided by His Majesty Emperor Xia himself or by you." Hearing this question, Yin Zhenjai squinted at the prince and asked with a smile, "Why are you asking these questions?" The prince continued, "If it was decided by the senior, I wonder if you can consider this position again. I think I am more suitable to be the emperor than him." Hearing this, Yin Zhenjai laughed, and the next moment, the prince's body exploded instantly and turned into a ball of blood mist. Seeing this scene, the members of the royal family were so frightened that they dared not even speak. At this time, Yin Zhenjai asked, "Which prince here wants to be the emperor? Please stand up." Hearing this, the members of the royal family were so frightened that their bodies trembled. In this situation, they dared not think about anything else. They were lucky to be able to survive. At this time, several princes immediately said, "We will all listen to the arrangements of the senior." At this point, everyone said in unison, "Greetings, Your Majesty." Seeing that everyone present bowed their heads, Yin Zhenjai nodded, and then said, "You are quite sensible. Lai Wenda's throne was decided by His Majesty himself. I believe you should know what to do. Lai Wenda's strength is still relatively weak. If someone with ulterior motives wants to replace him, they will definitely send assassins to kill him directly." Yin Zhenjai is also reminding everyone present that Lai Wenda is the spokesperson of the Great Xia Dynasty. If anything happens to him, everyone present will suffer. Then everyone said in unison again, "We will keep in mind the words of the senior. Okay, you get ready and hold the coronation ceremony tomorrow." After Lu Chen returned to the Fiheng Xianzhou, he sighed slightly again. It was not easy to meet a woman with a score of more than 90, but it turned out to be the reincarnation of the emperor. Although he thought that there were many women in the world, and when he left this star field, he could have as many women with a score of 90 as he wanted, he still felt very sorry. People are like this, the more they can't get it, the more they miss it. After thinking for a while, Lu Chen finally said, "Come here." Then, Lu Chen drafted an imperial edict and listed Lai Hongyun as his concubine. Although he couldn't get it for the time being, Lu Chen thought that a woman with a score of 90 must have something special, and they might meet again in the future, so he simply made her a concubine. At this moment, at the top of a certain world, a vortex-shaped hole slowly opened, and Lai Hongyun walked out of it. The next moment, her eyebrows were slightly frowned, and her expression became very serious, as if she had discovered something wrong. Lai Hongyun said to herself, "What's going on? Why did this palace suddenly have a marriage line?" End of this chapter. Chapter 835 Ziobai, I plan to help you create a small world. As the reincarnation of the Great Emperor, even without the Great Emperor's strength, the Great Emperor's soul can help Lai Hongyun see some causal lines. Just now, circles of red silk threads appeared on her body, and Lai Hongyun instantly realized that these were marriage threads, which meant that she already had a Taoist partner. The other end of this silk thread is connected to her Taoist companion. When did she get a Taoist companion? She didn't even know it herself. Although she is the soul of the Great Emperor and can see the line of cause and effect, with her current strength, she is not yet able to cut off the cause and effect. At the very least, one has to return to the realm of the Great Emperor to be able to cut off this line. Her face turned cold instantly. Although she didn't know who was connected to the other end, she had vaguely noticed it. Arrive. She had met the Emperor Xia before, and this was the first time in her 2 lives that she found a particularly handsome man, and she had never spoken so much to a man in her previous life. But having said that, she just felt that his appearance was more extraordinary, and she had not established a Taoist relationship with him, so why did she have a marriage relationship with him? As far as she knows, only after the relationship between Taoists and Taoists is clear, they will have a marriage line, and such a cause and effect cannot be imposed by anyone who wants to. Although the emperor can cut off some causal lines, it is not so easy to impose causality out of thin air. If he can impose causality out of thin air, wouldn't this person be invincible in the world? After thinking about it, Lai Hongyun still had no clue at all, and then she thought to herself, that's all, when she regains the strength of the emperor in the future, she will take action to cut off this marriage line. Such a thin marriage line would not have much impact on her. Thinking of this, Lai Hongyun stopped taking this matter to heart. A few days later, the World of Flames. The World of Flames has been completely controlled by Lu Chen. After feeling that it was about the same, Lu Chen began to absorb the luck of this world. The luck of the middle world was much more abundant than that of the low world. Lu Chen thought to himself that if he waited until he reached the higher world, he might be able to help his 2 or 3 wives conceive children in the world after absorbing half of the luck from the higher world. On the Fiheng ferry boat, Lu Chen sat cross-legged on the soft couch. After absorbing the luck of the raging world, he began to turn the luck into his own luck. After a while, he completely transformed his luck, and then he fell into deep thought. Should it be better to let that wife and concubine give birth to a child first? While he was deep in thought, Lu Chen glanced at Bai Qingqing at the door. Bai Qingqing has been following him, and she may encounter a lot of dangers in the future. She should be the one who needs to improve her strength the most. That being the case, let Bai Qingqing also give birth to a sub-world. Thinking of this, Lu Chen said, Xiao Bai, come here for a moment. After hearing this, Bai Qingqing came to the soft couch without hesitation. Your Majesty, what's the matter? In fact, Bai Qingqing had already guessed what Lu Chen was going to do. After all, she had been with him for so long and already knew Lu Chen very well. Thinking of this, a slight blush appeared on Bai Qingqing's cold cheeks. She did not answer immediately, but said with a smile, the weather in the flame world is a bit hot, so you'd better take off your armor. At this time, Bai Qingqing was not only wearing the Shengui armor, but also a black and gold armor. She looked heroic. After hearing Lu Chen's words, the blush on Bai Qingqing's face became even thicker. The temperature of the flame world is indeed much higher than that of the Tianquan world, but for their monks, this temperature is nothing. They can cover their whole bodies with spiritual power and isolate a certain amount of heat, so no matter how thick they wear can't feel the heat either. When Lu Chen said this, it was obviously. But Bai Qingqing didn't think much about it, and then she slowly took off her armor. After taking off the armor, there were white obscene clothes inside. Lu Chen directly stretched out his big hand and pulled Bai Qingqing's graceful body pulled into his arms. Evil. Bai Qingqing turned slightly and looked at Lu Chen's handsome face. Her heart began to beat fast. Although they were an old couple, every time she was intimate with Lu Chen, Bai Qingqing still felt there will be some tension. Of course, this kind of tension is not a bad thing. On the contrary, Sister Qinglan's shyness will make Lu Chen even more excited. After pulling Bai Qingqing into his arms, Lu Chen didn't hesitate at all. He directly put his claws into her clothes, then leaned forward and blocked her red lips. Bai Qingqing didn't resist. She was used to this kind of thing, and then the two began to kiss passionately. After the preparation was almost complete, Lu Chen laid Bai Qingqing down on the soft couch, and then slowly lowered her body. Lu Chen looked at Bai Qingqing's beautiful face and said with a smile, "Xiao Bai, I plan to help you create a small world. Ordinary monks can open up a small world when they reach a certain level. Bai Qingqing's current cultivation level is not yet high enough to open up a small world." However, Bai Qingqing had heard about Xia Shija a long time ago, and she instantly understood what Lu Chen meant. Then she blushed and said, "I thank you, Your Majesty." Lu Chen no longer hesitated and started busy with his own business. Half a month later. Huangji World, Kanghai Sect. A young man stood at the gate of Kanghai Sect, looking a little hesitant, but when he thought of everything he had been taken away by Lu Chen, and he also killed one of his clones, causing his current strength to drop sharply, he was a little unwilling. He must avenge this. Then Lai Haoan took the initiative to follow the team heading to the gate of Kanghai Sect and walked towards the top of the mountain. Today is the annual recruitment meeting of new disciples of Kanghai Sect. As the largest sect in the Huangji world, Kanghai Sect has countless cultivators who want to enter Kanghai Sect for cultivation every year, so the competition is very fierce when selecting disciples. Even if it is just an outer disciple, not 1 in 1,000 people may be able to enter. Lai Haoan was a little uneasy. Kanghai Sect is such a big sect. It may not be so easy to enter with his qualifications. Although he can be an emperor in the middle cultivation world, he can only be regarded as an ordinary cultivator in the high-level cultivation world. Now he is in the Huangji world in the Huangshan Star region. This star region is very rich in cultivation resources, and there are countless high-level cultivation worlds, and there are cultivators in the God transformation realm everywhere. Not to mention the divine transformation realm, there are even many saints. However, no matter how worried he was, Lai Haoan still decided to give it a try. As long as he could enter the Kanghai Sect and get in touch with the elders of the Kanghai Sect, he could immediately tell the Kanghai Sect about the Emperor's tomb in the Tianzhen world. Even though the Kanghai Sect is also a superpower, the Emperor's tomb is still very attractive to them. He believed that as long as he told the people of the Kanghai Sect about the Emperor's tomb, the Kanghai Sect would definitely reward him. End of this chapter. Chapter 836 Saint Level Teleportation Array. Call. Comfortable. In a certain palace of Fiheng Xianzhou, Lu Chen was helping Bai Qingqing build a small world. At this time, Bai Qingqing's face turned red, and traces of enchanting red appeared on her skin. At this time, Lu Chen looked down at Bai Qingqing's sweaty face, and then gently arranged her somewhat disheveled hair with his hands. Then he said, "Feel the subworld inside your body." Upon hearing this, Bai Qingqing closed her beautiful eyes without any hesitation. The next moment, her consciousness came to a dark world, which was extremely desolate and had nothing. At this moment, Lu Chen's voice came to her ears, "The subworld is now in the gestation stage. It will take some time to mature, and then life will be produced." After hearing this, Bai Qingqing felt relieved. She thought something was wrong. Since his man said so, it would be fine. Then Bai Qingqing's consciousness exited the subworld. When Bai Qingqing opened her eyes again, she found that Lu Chen and her were nose to nose, looking at her lovingly, and Bai Qingqing felt shy again. Feeling that all the muscles in Bai Qingqing's body were contracting, Lu Chen smiled and said, "Xiao Bai, you are not good. You have been thinking about this for so many days." Bai Qingqing twisted her body slightly and said nothing. Although she could not bear it, for her now, Lu Chen was everything. If Lu Chen wanted to continue, then she would sacrifice her life to accompany the gentleman. However, Lu Chen did not continue at this time. He glanced at the system interface next to him. The host helps his wife and concubine conceive the child in the world and obtains the reward of a holy teleportation array. Lu Chen thought for a while, then he hugged Bai Qingqing's soft body and turned over, letting Bai Qingqing lie on his body. He put a big hand on her jade back and hugged her. Then Lu Chen clicked on the holy teleportation array. Holy level teleportation array, if you build this teleportation array in any world in this universe, you can reach another place from one place in just an instant. Seeing the function of this teleportation array, Lu Chen was extremely surprised. A holy teleportation array could actually make distance in this universe no longer a problem? This teleportation array should be regarded as a god-level teleportation array, right? The saint-level teleportation array has such terrifying abilities, so wouldn't the god-level teleportation array? Just when Lu Chen was thinking this, the system prompted, a large amount of spiritual stones are needed to build a saint-level teleportation array. Hearing this, Lu Chen was stunned for a moment, and then quickly looked at the spiritual stones needed to build a saint-level teleportation array. At a glance, there were all zeros behind them, and they were still in units of spiritual crystals. It would take 10 top-grade spiritual stones to exchange for 1 low-grade spiritual crystal. His entire wealth combined could not be used to build a holy-level spiritual crystal. Moreover, teleportation arrays must be available in both worlds. If only one world has a teleportation array, it is of no use. He couldn't afford to build even 1 holy-level teleportation array, let alone 2 holy-level teleportation arrays. He was still too poor. It seemed that he had to find a way to earn more spiritual stones and crystals. At this time, Bai Qingqing was lying on Lu Chen's chest, quietly watching him in a daze. No matter when she looked at him, no matter what angle she looked at him from, the man beneath her was so handsome. Even though she had passed the joy period, she still enjoyed it very much. Enjoying this peaceful time, she just liked lying in Lu Chen's arms and feeling his heat. In fact, Lu Chen's women are basically like this. They just like to lie in his arms and enjoy the aftertaste of cultivating feelings. Huangji World, Kanghai Sect. In the square, a man in a grey robe glanced at the newly recruited disciples present, and then said to himself, "There are quite a few good talents this year." Hearing this, Lai Haoan seemed a little nervous. Although he had passed the disciple assessment and was now one of the disciples, if the other party assigned him to a registered disciple, it would be difficult for him to contact Kanghai. For Zhongxian, he is a relatively central figure. In this case, it is very likely that no one will believe what he says. At this time, the outer deacon's eyes fell on Lai Haoan, and Lai Haoan instantly became more nervous. Zhong Chenjiahu said, "I see that although you are young, the strength of your soul is not weak. However, you seem to have been injured in some way, which has led to the decline in strength. I guess that your soul is not intact after the clone was destroyed, so your strength just went down." Lai Haoan quickly said politely, as the senior said, "The disciple's soul has indeed been severely injured." Zhong Chenjiahu said calmly, "As long as you enter the Kanghai sect, it is not difficult to repair your soul. Well, you can join the outer sect from now on." Hearing this, Lai Haoan quickly said, "Thank you, senior." Lai Haoan breathed a sigh of relief, finally entering the Kanghai sect. Next, he only needed to find an opportunity to tell the outer elders of the Kanghai sect about the Emperor's tomb in the Chaos Star Sea. Maybe he would be able to return to the Flame World again soon. Thinking of this, a ruthless look flashed in Lai Haoan's eyes. He might be able to avenge Emperor Xia soon. In the blink of an eye, 1 year has passed. Now Lu Chen's control over Tianchen World, Xiang World and Liayan World has stabilized, although there are still many people with small thoughts inside. But in a remote place like Chaos Star Sea, no matter how many little tricks you have, you can't use them. Xiang World, in the palace of Great Xia Dynasty. There are constant sounds coming from the Empress's bedroom, and the maids guarding outside the door are blushing. Every time the Emperor comes, the Empress's bedroom will make such sounds. Although the maids have long been accustomed to it, they still find it hard to bear every time they hear these sounds. The key is that Emperor Xia comes for 10 days or half a month. At the same time, in the bedroom, Nangang Yuehua is still trying to hold on, but no matter how she circulates the spiritual power in her body, she can't stand the feelings that Lu Chen brings to her. Nangang Yuehua has a little resentment in her heart. This bastard is doing it on purpose. Every time she doesn't make a sound, he will torment her to death. She used to like to endure it, but now she is too lazy to hold it. Anyway, this guy likes to listen, so let him listen. After an unknown amount of time, Lu Chen finally stopped his violent behavior. Seeing that Lu Chen finally stopped, Nangang Yuehua breathed a sigh of relief. Hu! It seems that I can no longer be so reserved. The more I act like a queen in front of this man, the more excited he will be. After following Lu Chen for so long, Nangang Yuehua has figured out Lu Chen's character. At this time, Lu Chen looked into her autumn eyes and said with a smile, "Kinja said that there is no difference between you and her. It seems that she is right." Hearing this, Nangang Yuehua snorted and did not respond. End of this chapter. Chapter 837 Yun Xianxian gave birth to a sub-world. Nangang Yuehua didn't want to pay attention to Lu Chen at this time. It was normal for her to feel a little resentful after being tossed around. At this moment, a cold prompt sound from the system came into Lu Chen's mind. Yun Xianxian successfully gave birth to a child world, and was rewarded with a heaven-level explosive rune. Hearing the prompt sound, Lu Chen curiously clicked on the heaven-level explosive rune. Heaven-level explosive rune, the top-end version of the primary explosive rune, which can be used to make rune weapons, but very precious materials are required to limit the power of the rune, otherwise the weapon may hurt itself if it explodes. After seeing the introduction of the heaven-level explosive rune, Lu Chen fell into deep thought. The thing was a good thing. When the primary explosive rune was used to make a weapon, an ordinary person could kill a cultivator in the heavenly realm. Now that he has a heaven-level explosive rune, wouldn't the rune weapon he made be more powerful? When he thought of this, Lu Chen was a little excited. Once excited, Lu Chen became interested again. Seeing the cold beauty in front of him, Lu Chen couldn't help but get busy again. Nangang Yuehua gritted her teeth. This bastard, I don't know what he thought of just now, why did he suddenly go crazy again? I thought this time it was over. They have been together for more than a month this time. She now feels that she is a part of him. At the same time, Kanghai sect. After a year of hard work, Lai Haoan finally came into the sight of a certain outer sect elder and became the disciple of that outer sect elder. With the help of that outer sect elder, Lai Haoan's strength was not only restored, but his soul was also repaired to a certain extent. At this moment, on a certain mountain peak, an old man looked at the mountain peak in the distance and said to Lai Haoan behind him, "Haoan, your strength has almost recovered. I am going to find an opportunity for you to go out and gain experience. Although your talent is not very good, your strength is still good. In addition, you practice hard, and you may be able to enter the inner gate in the future." Hearing this, Lai Haoan said, "Yes, disciple will obey the master's order." Zhou Fian immediately said, "Okay, you go down and prepare." Zhou Fian's voice fell, but Lai Haoan did not leave immediately. Seeing that Lai Haoan seemed to have something to do, Zhou Fian asked, "What's wrong? What else do you want?" Lai Haoan replied, "Master, I have something to tell you." "I don't know if I should tell you." Zhou Fian asked in confusion, "What is it? Just say it." Lai Haoan, this disciple, basically practices on weekdays and rarely asks him for anything on his own initiative. Lai Haoan suddenly said that he had something to do today, which made Zhou Fian interested. Lai Haoan then said, "I used to be the emperor of a certain dynasty. One day, my subordinates found a great emperor's tomb in the next world." Before Lai Haoan finished speaking, Zhou Fian immediately interrupted and said, "Wait, the great emperor's tomb? Is what you said true?" Lai Haoan said, "Everything I said is true. It is just a low-level world, but the cultivators in that world are able to break through to the Gigzu realm, and they also have many heavenly spiritual weapons. The most important thing is that the world is restricted by the powerful. That low-level world is next to my world, but my dynasty has existed for a long time, and my ancestors have never discovered that world. Hearing Lai Haoen's words, Zhou Feiyan fell silent. To be honest, if he just listened to the opening words, he didn't think that the low-level world mentioned by Lai Haoen had the great emperor's tomb. But a place that can be restricted by a powerful person and cannot be spied on must have treasures. In addition, a low-level world can give birth to the Gigzu realm and can also produce many heavenly spiritual weapons. It is possible that the tomb of the emperor exists in that low-level world. If that is the case. Zhou Feiyan smiled, then looked at Lai Haoen and asked, Haoen, what star field is the world you are talking about in? If this matter is reported to the sect, once the sect confirms that there is really a tomb of the emperor in that place, you will be the first to be credited, and your entry into the inner gate will be secure. Lai Haoen immediately replied, that world is called Tianchen World, located in Chaos Star Sea. Hearing this, Zhou Feiyan was stunned. Chaos Star Sea? What is that place? Why has he never heard of it? Zhou Feiyan then said, how come I haven't heard of the Chaos Star Sea you mentioned? Lai Haoen said quickly, the Chaos Star Sea is a wild star field, a world of death everywhere, and space turbulence often occurs. It's not surprising that Master doesn't know about the Chaos Star Sea. Zhou Feiyan said, it turns out to be just a wild star field. No wonder Master has never heard of it. But since you came from the Chaos Star Sea, you should know how to go back, right? This. Seeing Lai Haoen stunned, Zhou Feiyan didn't frown. You came from the Chaos Star Sea, don't you know how to get back to the Chaos Star Sea? Lai Haoen said, to be honest with you, Master, after I left the Chaos Star Sea on my own, I lost my direction. I have been looking for a star map with the Chaos Star Sea this year, but I still have nothing to show for it. Hearing this, Zhou Feiyan was not angry, but the smile on his face became even more vigorous. Although not many people know about the wild star field, after all, not many people are running towards the wild star field, but there will always be people who know about it. If there is no trace at all, and Lai Haoen said before that someone has set up a ban on a lower world, and no one has discovered the existence of that world, then this means that this wild star field is likely to be hidden artificially. Perhaps it was the powerful person who set up the ban to hide the lower world. In this way, it is even more clear that there may be a tomb of the Emperor in the Chaos Star Sea. The tomb of the Emperor contains countless opportunities and inheritances. If he can find that place, then the possibility of him breaking through to the Saint Realm will be greater. Thinking of this, Zhou Feiyan said to Lai Haoen, don't report this matter to the sect first. After all, you can't find the way back. No one knows whether what you said is true. If you don't find the tomb of the Emperor you mentioned in the end, the sect will definitely punish you. Why not do this first? The Master will send some people to help you. You find a way to find the way back to the Chaos Star Sea. If you can find the star map of the Chaos Star Sea, the Master will immediately help you report to the section. Hearing this, Lai Haoen said happily, disciple thanks the Master. Zhou Feiyan continued, well, let's do this first. Yes, Master. Then Lai Haoen turned and left. Seeing Lai Haoen's back, Zhou Feiyan couldn't help but raise the corners of his mouth slightly. He touched his beard and seemed to be thinking about something in his heart. He didn't plan to tell the sect about the Emperor's tomb for the time being. After all, the more people knew about the inheritance and opportunity, the more competitors there would be, so the fewer people knew about it, the better. He planned to explore the Chaos Star Sea that Lai Haoen mentioned first. End of this chapter. Subscribe to Chinese Novel Audio Wave. Chapter 838 I am getting more and more curious about who you are. As time goes by, Lu Chen's improvement has become slower and slower, as if he has encountered some bottleneck. Now, no matter whether he is practicing by himself or practicing together, he can't feel any improvement in his realm. In the blink of an eye, another year has passed, and the three worlds have basically been integrated. Today, the world of Tianquan is becoming more and more prosperous. Today's Tianquan world has entered the industrial age. Due to the increased production of spiritual rice, more and more ordinary people can eat spiritual rice. Spiritual rice can speed up cultivation and increase cultivation for monks, but it is also good for ordinary people who cannot practice. On the one hand, it can increase lifespan, and on the other hand, eating very little spiritual rice can make them better. Not eating for several days. Now ordinary people have almost no problem of famine. Black Dragon City, Royal Palace. Lu Chen lay on Yungxiangxian's soft body, feeling the warmth of Yungxiangxian. At this time, the two of them were in perfect harmony, and they could feel each other's heartbeats. At this time, Yun Xianxian said, "Only you can think of selling spiritual rice to ordinary people." Hearing this, Lu Chen said with a smile, "If we want to enter the industrial age, we can no longer starve the people. Moreover, the production of spiritual rice has increased now. There is no shortage of spiritual rice at all. There is nothing wrong with selling some to ordinary people." The spiritual rice seeds given to Lu Chen at the beginning of the system had a very high yield. After sowing in turns, the yield of spiritual rice per acre has now exceeded 10,000 kilograms. In addition, Lu Chen sent people to the Flame World, a medium-level cultivation world, to stock up a lot of fields. After the spiritual rice arrived in the medium-level cultivation world with abundant spiritual energy, the output increased further. Now the storage capacity of spiritual rice has even exceeded that of ordinary rice. If you save so much food, you might as well sell it to the people. Although the price of spiritual rice is more expensive than ordinary rice, spiritual rice is very hungry. If an ordinary person eats spiritual rice all year round, the calculated food cost will even be cheaper than ordinary rice. Lu Chen continued at this time, "Although the world of cultivation emphasizes the law of the jungle, but in the world I rule, I don't want to see my people not even having enough to eat." Yun Xianxian said, "There are only so many resources in the world of cultivation. If you take more, others will take less." Yun Xianxian is not saying that he completely agrees with the law of the jungle, but the world of cultivation is like this. It doesn't mean that you can change it if you want. The rules of the law of the jungle cannot be determined by human will. Lu Chen said, "This is not necessarily true. Sometimes some people are just too greedy. Look at those spiritual rice. We obviously only sold a small part to ordinary people. Now the people in Tianquan world, Xiang world, and Liayan world are ordinary mortals no longer have to worry about going hungry." Yun Xianxian said, "Ordinary spiritual rice does not have such a high yield. The output of Lu Chen's spiritual rice has far exceeded that of ordinary rice, and the output of those spiritual rice in the world of immortality is not even 1/10 of Lu Chen's spiritual rice. How can it be sold to ordinary people?" Lu Chen smiled and said, "That's true." After the words fell, Lu Chen put his arms around Yun Xiangxian's waist, and then slowly turned over, letting her lie on his body. At this time, Yun Xianxian asked, "That sub-world seems to have provided me with a special power that made my cultivation level improve very quickly. Since the birth of the child world in her body, her cultivation has begun to rise slowly. In just 1 year, her cultivation has almost reached the return to ruins state." Yun Xianxian was very unfamiliar with that kind of power and didn't know what kind of power it was, but she could feel it and it was not harmful to her. Lu Chen said, "That is the original power. The subworld we gave birth to together can produce some original power to help us practice." Hearing this, Yun Xianxian was slightly startled. The power of origin? As Yun Qingshu's clone, she naturally knows what the original power is, but of course she only knows it. The power of the origin is the supreme power of the universe. It is said in the ancient times that as long as you control the power of the origin, you control the entire universe and can prevent the catastrophe. However, until the great catastrophe came, no one controlled the original power, and the ancient era was eventually destroyed and reset. That power is actually the original power? No wonder she said how she sensed that the will of heaven in this world seemed to be a little afraid of her. The power of the source contained the supreme law, which overrides all laws of the universe. And she has the power of origin, which suppresses the law of heaven in this world to a certain extent, so the will of heaven is afraid of her. At this time, Yun Xianxian once again couldn't help but asked what he had always wanted to know. Lu Chen, I'm getting more and more curious, who are you? It is simply unheard of that the child world conceived with him can actually produce the original power and the supreme power of this universe. Even though she already had all of Yun Qingshu's memories, Lu Chen's origins still exceeded her knowledge. No one will believe it if you tell me that you can obtain your original power through the affairs between men and women. In the past, she had always thought that Lu Chen was only focused on matters between men and women and only knew about dual cultivation. It would be difficult for him to become an emperor in the future. But now it seems that she has too little knowledge. After Yun Xianxian finished speaking, he slowly stood up, placed his hands on both sides of Lu Chen's head, and looked down at his eyes. At this time, Lu Chen's claws slowly raised up and messed around with Yun Xianxian's body. Yun Xianxian didn't pay attention. She had long been used to it, and the two of them should be in a close state now. While playing with the things in front of him, Lu Chen replied, I actually don't know who I am. This. Yun Xianxian didn't expect Lu Chen to answer like this. How could someone not know who he is? Yun Xianxian was stunned for a moment. She didn't seem to know that she was Yun Qingshu's clone in the past. Could it be that Lu Chen was also the clone of some powerful person? Just as Yun Xianxian was thinking this, Lu Chen continued, my memory has not fully awakened. When I remove my sealed memory, maybe I will know who I am. Lu Chen's answer was not perfunctory. He really didn't know who he was now. He clearly had memories on Earth, but his previous life was not an Earthling, but the son of the Shenwu Emperor. He was now doubting whether his memories on Earth were false memories instilled in him by the Tianyan stone when he was reincarnated. If everything on Earth is fake, why did Yunqi instill such false memories in me that day? What's the point? And what about the system? Lu Chen used to think about these questions, but over the years, he has been too lazy to think about them. No matter whether there is a conspiracy behind the system, when he grows up to a certain level, he will naturally find out what is going on. End of this chapter. Chapter 839. Bai Qingqing gave birth to a sub-world. Seeing that Lu Chen didn't look like he was joking, Yun Xianxian didn't ask any more questions. She slowly leaned down and lay on Lu Chen's chest again, and then hugged Lu Chen with a pair of slender white arms. Chen's strong waist. Just lying quietly in the arms of this traitor felt as comfortable as doing that kind of thing. This kind of comfort was a kind of spiritual satisfaction. Seeing Yun Xianxian lying in his arms like a little woman, Lu Chen felt a sense of pride in his heart. The most enjoyable thing in life is nothing more than this. The once cold fairy has now been conquered by herself. Lu Chen raised his hand and gently stroked Yun Xianxian's silver white hair, his fingers slowly passing between her silky hair. The two of them have fallen into silence now. It's good to just feel each other's bodies and quietly enjoy the afterglow of the relationship between men and women. At this time, Yun Xianxian couldn't help but think in her heart, she never thought that one day her relationship with this traitor would develop into what it is now. At the beginning, she just wanted to treat Lu Chen as a chess piece. I really hope days like this can last forever. Just as Lu Chen was fiddling with Yun Xianxian's hair, a voice came into Lu Chen's ears, Bai Qingqing gave birth to the child world. Congratulations to the host for obtaining the blueprint for making weapons with heavenly runes. Hearing this prompt, Lu Chen felt happy. Bai Qingqing had finally given birth to a child world. Then he calmed down and a thought entered Bai Qingqing's child world. When he entered Bai Qingqing's sub-world, he happened to find that Bai Qingqing's spiritual consciousness was also inside. After Bai Qingqing felt the changes in her body, she immediately used her spiritual consciousness to explore her body. Unexpectedly, Lu Chen happened to be there. "I pay my respects to your majesty." Lu Chen smiled slightly, and then asked, "Xiao Bai, how do you feel now?" Bai Qingqing replied, "I feel a strange force pouring into my body, and my strength and realm have been greatly improved." Lu Chen said, "When your future world gives birth to more lives, especially intelligent lives, you will be able to gain more of that kind of power, and your strength and cultivation will become stronger." Upon hearing this, Bai Qingqing immediately said, "I thank your majesty for the gift." In the past, Bai Qingqing couldn't feel the role of Zishija. She didn't take Zishija seriously in the past 2 years. It wasn't until today that she truly understood what a great opportunity Lu Chen had given her. Lu Chen then said, "Okay, let's do this for now." As soon as he finished speaking, Lu Chen's consciousness left Bai Qingqing's sub-world. After coming back to his senses, Lu Chen opened the production blueprint for the heavenly rune weapon. The production blueprint did not show the name of this weapon. Lu Chen wasn't too interested in the grade of the weapon now. He quickly looked at the materials for making the weapon. For him, it didn't matter what kind of drawings there were. What mattered was whether there were materials that could be used to make it. If you only have blueprints and no materials, then holding the blueprints is of no use. Soon, Lu Chen's eyes fell on the material column. The material for making this runic weapon was called vibranium, which was a material used to build immortal boats. Seeing this, Lu Chen breathed a sigh of relief. It wasn't considered too precious. Lu Chen thought that the materials for making weapons with heavenly runes must be at least as rare as those for heavenly weapons. He didn't expect that they were only made of immortal materials. The boat can be built out of materials. But then again, although there are some vibranium mines in the flame world that can be used to build ferry boats, most of them have been used to build ferry boats. Now even if there are some vibranium mines in the flame world, they are probably just a few. Not many weapons can be made from leftover materials. It seems that we have to ask Tianyuan world, where the Black Dragon Holy Land is located, to send some vibranium. Of course, they can also move directly to Tianyuan world. In fact, based on their current situation, it is actually the best choice to directly leave Tianchen world and move to Tianyuan world. Although after Tianchen world and Xiang world began to merge, the spiritual energy of Tianchen world has become stronger than before, and Lu Chen has also mastered the Liayan world, a medium cultivation world, and some monks can go directly to the Liayan world to practice. But after all, here in the unparalleled Chaos Star Sea, even the medium cultivation world is not as good as the medium cultivation worlds in the star fields outside, and the resources are not as good as other medium cultivation worlds. The Tianyuan world where the Black Dragon Holy Land is located is also a medium cultivation world, but it has much more spiritual energy concentration and cultivation resources than the Flame world. If he could move to Tianyuan world, it would be more helpful for Lu Chen's cultivation. But if you really move to Tianyuan world, you will probably encounter a lot of troubles. First of all, Lu Yanghua, the 5th prince of the Xia Dynasty, has cultivated a lot of forces in Tianyuan world. If you really go to Tianyuan world, then Lu Yanghua was hit. For now, he doesn't want to expose himself. His strength is still too weak. What's more, Chu Yukin's main body also has some resentment towards him. If the news of his departure from Tianchen world is discovered by Chu Yukin's main body, Chu Yukin's main body might send people to trouble her again. And now that he is in Tianchen world, no matter what he does, they will not know about it, and they have no time to come to such a remote place to cause trouble for him. Lu Chen thought to himself, forget it, just wait a little longer, wait until he is strong enough, and then go to other worlds. First, take down all the worlds in the Chaos Star Sea. The Chaos Star Sea is located in a remote star field in the universe. This star field is very large, and there are many worlds with life. Lu Chen plans to unify all the worlds and then establish an empire. At this time, Lu Chen's eyes fell on the heaven-level rune weapon in his hand again. Ordinary people with weapons made of primary burst runes can kill the Heavenman Realm monks. Now that he has the heaven-level burst rune, and now he has obtained the production drawings of the rune weapon, then the next step is to make the rune weapon. Lu Chen is not worried about making rune weapons at all, because there are many weapon refiners in the Black Dragon Holy Land. Compared with the craftsmen he got in Daxia in the past, those weapon refiners know more about how to make rune weapons. Moreover, rune weapons are different from refining tools. If you refine a heaven-level spiritual tool, at least you need a very powerful weapon refiner, but to make a rune weapon, you only need to be able to carve the rune. Once the heaven-class rune weapons are mass-produced, it won't take much time to unify the entire Chaos Star Sea. Thinking of this, Lu Chen's mouth corners slightly raised, and his heart became a little more passionate. Feeling Lu Chen's sudden expansion of ambition, Yun Xian snorted lightly. I don't know what bad ideas this traitor is up to. He suddenly became so excited. End of this chapter. Chapter 840 The Enemy Arrives. After Lu Chen felt comfortable at Yung Xianxian's place, he simply took a bath. After getting dressed, he went to the royal study room of the Black Dragon City Palace, and then asked Yin Zhenjai to come to the royal study room to find him. The next moment, Yin Zhenjai appeared in the imperial study. Greetings to your majesty. Lu Chen said calmly, no courtesy. I have obtained the blueprints for making heaven-level rune weapons one by one, so I want the weapon refiners in the Black Dragon Holy Land to put down what they are doing and help me make the rune weapons. Hearing this, Yin Zhenjai was stunned. He naturally knew about rune weapons, but it was only after arriving in Tianchen world that he realized that such mysterious weapons actually existed in this universe. Rune weapons are different from spiritual weapons. Although some spiritual weapons also require the formation of formations, it is far from as easy as the production method of rune weapons. It would take several hours for a weapon refiner to refine a spiritual weapon, but the craftsmen of the Great Xia Dynasty who made rune weapons could make dozens of rune weapons in an hour. The advantage of rune weapons is that as long as the runes are carved on the rune weapons can exert great power, and even ordinary people can use the rune weapons. However, the rune weapon also has a disadvantage, that is, the upper limit of the rune weapon is fixed. No matter how powerful the user is, the rune weapon can only have so much power. Spiritual weapons are different. The stronger the monk who uses the spiritual weapon is, the more powerful the spiritual weapon will be. But it is easy to master rune weapons. If an ordinary monk can master a weapon that can easily kill a weapon that is several levels higher than himself, then the Great Xia Dynasty will probably have a great chance of winning even if it goes to attack those high-level cultivation worlds. Yin Zhenjai said, Your Majesty, I will arrange the arrangements for you right now. Lu Chen continued, Don't worry, making rune weapons requires a lot of vibranium, which is what you call fairy gold. You ask the people in the Black Dragon Holy Land to send more fairy gold to Tianchen world. Yin Zhenjai felt a lot better after hearing that vibranium was needed to make rune weapons. He thought that heaven-level rune weapons were the same as those of primary rune weapons and only needed to use the steel made by the Great Xia Dynasty. Build. If that's the case, then this weapon is too heaven-defying. I don't know how it will spread in the future. I am afraid that everyone will have a heaven-level rune weapon. This is not a good thing for the monks and poses a great threat. Ordinary mortals with elementary rune-marked weapons can kill heavenly beings. So if a monk with cultivation level holds a heaven-level rune-marked weapon, wouldn't he be able to casually kill monks in the Wanfa realm or even the God Transformation realm? Yin Zhenjai is still a little conservative in his heart. In his opinion, the mass production of rune weapons has pros and cons. If it is only in their own hands, then there is no problem. After all, this greatly improves their strength. But if the rune weapons are leaked and fall into the hands of other forces, it will be a disaster for the Tianchen world and the Great Xia Dynasty. In the future, people from other forces may come with heaven-level rune weapons. Attack Tianchen world. However, Yin Zhenjai didn't say much. He believed that His Majesty must know what even he knew. Since His Majesty had already made this decision, it must have been after careful consideration. He only needed to do what His Majesty said. Then Yin Zhenjai said, "Yes, Your Majesty." Lu Chen then said, "Okay, you go down and do your work. My subordinates resign." As soon as he finished speaking, Yin Zhenjai left the imperial study room directly. At the same time, in the cosmic space, a ferry boat is flying slowly towards the distance. At this time, everyone on the ferry boat looked very unhappy. This immortal boat belonged to the Yinhuo sect, which was the person Lu Yanghua specially arranged to follow and monitor them when Xuanyu Palace left the Tianyuan world. It was also the assassin sent to kill Lu Chen. In order not to be discovered by Xuanyu Palace, they have always kept a long distance from Xuanyu Palace's ferry boat fleet. However, the spies placed by Lu Yanghua in Xuanyu Palace have been passing on information to them, so they are not afraid of following the immortals from Xuanyu Palace. Boat. However, just 2 years ago, no one from the front suddenly sent back information, and they completely lost track of the Xuanyu Palace's immortal boat fleet. Without the information sent back by the spies, how could they find Tianzhen world? At this time, Sima Haoyan said with a gloomy look, "Damn it, we have all been fooled by Xuanyu Palace. I am afraid they have known for a long time that someone is passing on information to us, and deliberately let those people keep passing on information to us, and then it was led to other places." At this time, the people of the Yinhuo sect had already reacted. According to the information they had learned, they should have arrived at Tianzhen world a long time ago. However, they have not arrived yet and have lost contact with the spies in Xuanyu Palace. Then it proves that they were all deceived. Thinking of this, everyone in the Yinhuo sect felt extremely aggrieved. They were actually being walked like dogs. Lan Huai said at this time, "What should we do now? If we go back now, I'm afraid we won't be able to explain to that person. With Lu Yanghua's character, if they failed in such an easy task, Lu Yanghua might just deal with them all. But if they continue to search like this, I'm afraid it's also not an option. The universe is so big, where can they go to find a lower world? There are countless worlds in this universe. Without a star map, they may not be able to find the Tianzhen world until the end. And Xuanyu Palace must have sent people to lead them to a different direction from Tianzhen world. Even if they continue to search along the current path, they may not be able to find Tianzhen world." Sima Haoyan pondered for a long time, then sighed and said, "I still plan to tell that person about this. Anyway, it's his spy who has a problem, and it has nothing to do with us." Lan Huai said, "Now this is the only way." As Lan Huai finished speaking, suddenly, their ferry boat seemed to hit something, and then the ferry boat began to circle. The faces of the Yinhuo sect members on the ferry boat changed drastically in an instant. "No, it's space turbulence. Quick! Fly out immediately!" If they were caught in the space turbulence, the shattered time and space would likely shatter their bodies. Even if they survived successfully, they might be teleported to some remote and wild star fields, and they might even lose their way and never be able to return to their original world. They never thought that there was space turbulence in this place. Just when everyone on the immortal boat was about to abandon the immortal boat and escape, a huge black hole formed below them, and then a terrifying suction force came, sucking all of them directly into the space turbulence. Just when Sima Haoyan and Lan Huai thought they were doomed, their eyes lit up and they appeared in a void full of broken worlds. End of this chapter. Chapter 841. Everyone from the Yinhuo sect, those who survive a great disaster will surely have good. Seeing that they were all still alive, everyone in the Yinhuo sect was instantly relieved. They thought they were going to be crushed by the turbulent flow of space, but they didn't expect that they actually survived. If you survive a catastrophe, you will be blessed later. The disciples of the Yinhuo sect were slumped on the immortal boat one by one, breathing heavily. After everyone calmed down, they climbed up from the deck of the ferry boat one by one, and then observed the surrounding universe. The star field they were in at the moment was filled with broken black worlds, and there were countless world fragments floating in the void. However, in the world cemetery, there are still several living worlds that radiate light. Seeing this scene, everyone breathed a sigh of relief again. Fortunately, they were not involved in those dead realms by the space turbulence. In this universe, there are some star fields that are completely devoid of any aura and life. These star fields are very old. These places are called dead areas, also known as black areas. If a monk accidentally enters a certain death realm in the universe, it is likely that they will never be able to come out again. There is no spiritual energy in the dead realm, and the monk's body cannot be replenished by the spiritual energy. He can only consume his own spiritual energy to resist the erosion of certain chaotic forces in the dead realm. Moreover, in addition to consuming a lot of spiritual power of the monks and leaving the monks without replenishment, the dead zone also has the biggest trouble, that is, the area of the dead zone is very wide, and there is almost no light in the dead zone, making it difficult for the monks to enter. After entering the dead zone, it is very likely that you will not be able to find a way out of the dead zone until the end. At this time, everyone in the Yinhuo sect felt lingering fear, but fortunately they did not fall into the death realm. Judging from the surrounding situation, they should have been taken to some remote wild star field by the turbulent space flow. However, since there is a living world, it is okay, as long as they can replenish the spiritual power in their bodies. At this time, Lan Huai suggested, Elder Sima, let's go to the world in front of us first to replenish our spiritual power. Sima Haoan said, I think so too. Then they controlled the ferry boat and flew towards the blue world in front of them. Just when their ferry boat was about to approach the lower world in front of them, a ferry boat flew from a distance. The soldiers on the ferry boat saw a strange ferry boat entering the Tianchen world, so they immediately sent a message to Yin Zhenjai, saying that someone had broken into the Tianchen world. Yin Zhenjai quickly sent someone to notify Lu Chen, but before Yin Zhenjai sent someone to tell Lu Chen actually knew about the intruder. He has established a direct connection with the heavenly Dao of Tianchen world. As long as an enemy invades Tianchen world, or a strange ferry boat comes to Tianchen world, heavenly Dao will tell him immediately. At this time, everyone in the Yinhuo sect also discovered the immortal boat in Tianchen world. Seeing the immortal boat approaching, Sima Haoan and others were suddenly a little surprised. In such a wild star field where death is everywhere, there are still ferry boats? Could it be that there is some treasure in this lower world? Just when people were confused, a man's voice came from the ferry boat opposite, Who are you? Hearing this, Lan Huai and Sima Haoan looked at me and I looked at you. Then Lan Huai took the initiative and said, We are monks passing by here and plan to enter this world to restore our spiritual power. After Lan Huai finished speaking, a man's voice came from the ferry boat on the opposite side again, Our world does not allow ferry boats outside the Chaos Star Sea to enter. You should leave quickly. Everyone in the Yin Fire sect laughed. It was just a lower world, but they dared to talk to their Yin Fire sect like this. Although the other party owns an immortal boat, the immortal boat doesn't look very good. It's a bit tattered and I don't know where it was picked up from. The strongest monks in the lower world are only in the 10,000 Dharma realm. If they want to enter this lower world, can these people stop them? Immediately, Sima Haoan jumped out and flew directly into the void of the universe, and then the aura of the God transformation realm on his body was instantly released. Feeling the aura of the God transformation realm on Sima Haoan's body, the soldiers on the Tianchen immortal boat were not frightened. They were just a God transformation realm monk, and there was no shortage of the God transformation realm in the Tianchen world. At this time, the Tianchen immortal boat also released the aura and pressure of the God transformation realm. Feeling the aura released from the immortal boat in front of them, everyone in the Yinhuo sect was slightly startled. In this low-level world of the wild star field, there are actually monks in the realm of gods? After being stunned for a moment, everyone in the Yinhuo sect quickly came to their senses. What can a monk in the realm of transformation do? It is estimated that this guy has offended someone in some advanced world of cultivation, so he came to this barbaric place. Starfield is hiding. He is just a cultivator in the transformation of God realm. In addition, the spiritual energy in this lower world is relatively thin. If he stays in this place for a long time as a soul transformation realm, his strength will also decline. The next moment, Lan Huai also appeared in the void. He looked at the ferry boat in Tianchen world, and then said, "We are just here to repair it, and we will leave after the repairs are completed. There is no need for you to be so excited. Is it possible that this low-level person is here? Is there any treasure in the world that you are afraid of us discovering, so you won't let us enter? It's just a lower world. It's unlikely that monks like them, who are in the realm of gods, are interested in a lower world. If they pass through other lower worlds and want to go in and repair them, the world masters of those lower worlds will not be interested in it. Even if they are not happy, they will be allowed to enter. After all, there are not many things in the lower world that monks in the transformation god realm can appreciate, and there is no need for the world masters in the lower world to offend the powerful ones in the soul transformation realm for such a trivial matter." At this time, everyone in the Yinhuo sect vaguely felt that there was some treasure in the lower world in front of them. The more they were not allowed to enter, the more they wanted to break in and take a look. Anyway, the other party should only have one cultivator in the realm of gods. After hearing Lan Huai's words, the general who had just spoken on the immortal boat was about to say something, but at this time there was a space fluctuation, and suddenly a figure appeared in front of the general. After seeing the person coming, the soldiers and cultivators on the ferry boat quickly saluted and said, "Greetings to your majesty." This scene happened to be seen by everyone in the Yinhuo sect. When they felt the aura released from Lu Chen's body, everyone in the Yinhuo sect was stunned for a moment. It was another cultivator in the god transformation realm, and these people also said that he was his majesty? How could anyone in the realm of divine transformation come to such a low-level world to establish a dynasty? Lu Chen glanced at Lan Huai and Sima Haoan, and instantly understood the origin of the Yin Fire sect through the system. Name, Sima Haoan. Identity, Elder of Yinhuo sect, assassin sent by Lu Yanghua. Strength, 5th level of Divine Transformation Realm. Loyalty, -50. Name, Lan Huai. Identity, Elder of Yinhuo cult, evil assassin sent by Lu Yanghua. Strength, 4th level of Divine Transformation Realm. Loyalty, -50. Lu Chen had long realized that his brothers might come to trouble him, so he was not surprised at all by the personal information he saw. He now has the strength of the Return to the Ruins realm. Although his cultivation has not reached the Return to the Ruins realm, it is still not a big problem to solve some minor troubles. Sima Haoan said directly at this time, "Boy, we just want to rest in your world, you won't even allow this, right?" Lu Chen didn't talk nonsense to them. Since these were assassins sent by Lu Yanghua, let's just send them on their way. End of chapter. Chapter 842 I will not be a human being if I don't take revenge. Lu Chen took out the god-slaying sword without hesitation. Seeing the god-slaying sword in Lu Chen's hand, the people of Yinhuo sect were stunned for a moment. They immediately realized that the sword in Lu Chen's hand was a heavenly spiritual sword. For a moment, a trace of greed flashed in the eyes of the people of Yinhuo sect. The people of Yinhuo sect were not good people to begin with. There was no reason not to rob when they encountered a treasure. At this time, Lan Huai and Sima Haoan looked at each other again, and gave each other a look. The next moment, before Lu Chen took the lead, Lan Huai and Sima Haoan rushed directly towards Lu Chen. Link's Yu Hand. Tianhuo Claw. Seeing the two spells in the void, Lu Chen's eyes were not afraid at all. Then he jumped out of the ferry boat directly, and the spiritual power on his body gathered in the god-slaying sword. Seeing that the spells released by Sima Haoan and Lan Huai were about to touch Lu Chen's body, Lu Chen slashed with his sword. Ice level 8 sword. 8 sword lights flashed, and the 2 spells in the void dissipated instantly, and the Yinhuo Sect's ferry boat also exploded instantly. However, just when Lu Chen thought he had dealt with the 2 people, a voice suddenly sounded from the smoke. I underestimated you. You are indeed quite powerful. I didn't expect that there would be such a strong person in this wild star field. It seems that there are really treasures in this low-level world. As the voice fell, the smoke and dust produced by the explosion was instantly blown away by a stream of air, and Sima Haoan's body appeared in front of people. However, the other people in the Yinhuo sect were already dead, leaving only Sima Haoan. Sima Haoan's condition at this time was not very good, with sword wounds all over his body and blood dripping. Seeing Sima Haoan still alive, Lu Chen was also slightly surprised. He was able to survive the combined attack of the Heavenly Grade Spirit Sword and the Heavenly Grade Sword technique. This person is quite powerful. If it were an ordinary God transformation realm, he would have been killed by himself. Just as Lu Chen was thinking about how to deal with this person next, suddenly, wisps of black mist began to emerge from Sima Haoan's wounds. Then, visible black lines appeared on his body, as if his blood vessels were stained black by something black. Lu Chen immediately felt a strong demonic energy, which also contained some power of the heavenly demon. Lu Chen smiled and said, "No wonder I didn't kill him with one sword. He turned out to be a demon messenger." Hearing this, Sima Haoan sneered, "You can see that I am a demon messenger. You have some vision, but it's too late." As he spoke, the black mist on Sima Haoan's body condensed into a huge claw. Heavenly Demon Claw. Seeing the huge demon claw, Lu Chen smiled faintly. Since he obtained the advanced skill of the burial demon art, the chaos demon slaying skill, he has basically not used it. Today he finally found an opportunity. Lu Chen did not hesitate to circulate the spiritual power around his body, and the next moment, his body began to emit golden light. Chaos Demon Slaying Skill. Then, Lu Chen slashed out with his sword again, and the golden spiritual power that had originally emanated from Lu Chen's body instantly gathered into the sword energy. The next moment, when the sword energy of the God-slaying sword touched Sima Haoan's heavenly demon claw, it cut directly like cutting vegetables. Seeing the sword energy coming straight at him, Sima Haoan was stunned. He obviously did not expect this result. No. Impossible. Ah! With Sima Haoan's long wail, Sima Haoan's body and soul were directly destroyed by the sword energy. After seeing the remnants of the immortal boats floating in the void, Lu Chen's face was not happy. The cultivators in the God transformation realm can condense clones, and no one can say whether the cultivators in the God transformation realm of the Yin Fire sect will have clones. Maybe these guys will send people to trouble him. Forget it, I will kill them 1 by 1 or 2 by 2 in the future. There is nothing to worry about. Thinking of this, Lu Chen went back to Tianchen world directly. At the same time, in a cave in Tianyuan world, there are spiritual plants that emit a certain light in the cave, and in the middle of the cave, there is an old man who is practicing with his eyes closed. At this time, the old man opened his eyes and spit out a mouthful of blood. Sima Haoan roared angrily, "Damn it! That guy's spiritual power can actually restrain the power of the devil." After feeling that his clone was cut off, Sima Haoan was extremely angry. The mission failed, and now his clone was cut off again, causing his soul to be severely damaged and his strength to drop sharply. Sima Haoan immediately said, "If I don't take revenge for this, I swear I will not be a human being." The mission has failed, and he can't hang around in front of Lu Yanghua again, so he can focus on revenge next. At this time, Sima Haoan thought to himself that the other party had fought him right from the start, and that he could take out a heavenly grade spiritual sword in such a remote place, which meant that there was a real treasure in that place. If he could find that place, he could not only take revenge, but also obtain the treasure of that low-level world. When he thought of this, Sima Haoan was a little excited, but that person was quite powerful, and if he wanted to take revenge, he might have to find their leader. After thinking about it, Sima Haoan finally chose to find their leader. Soon, Sima Haoan came to the forbidden area of Yinhuo sect. As soon as he entered the forbidden area, Sima Haoan saw a person who looked exactly like himself not far away. He immediately saluted that person and said, "Greetings to the leader." The man glanced at Sima Haoan and then said, "Did the mission Lu Yanghua assigned you fail?" Sima Haoan said quickly, "Master, there was something wrong with the spies planted by Lu Yanghua, and our whereabouts were discovered. As a result, Swanya Palace used the trick to lure us to other star fields." The leader of the Yin Fire sect didn't seem to care much about the failure of the mission. He continued, "Who killed your clone?" The moment Sima Haoan entered the forbidden area, Taoist Ningjing could see that Sima Haoan's body was seriously injured and his soul was also incomplete. It was obvious that his clone had been chopped off. Sima Haoan said, "We were brought to a wild star field by the turbulent flow of space. In that wild star field, we discovered a special lower world." Taoist Ningjing asked, "Oh? What's so special about a lower world?" Sima Haoan said, "There are 2 monks in the lower world who are in the realm of gods, and one of them has a heaven-level spiritual sword in his hand. Moreover, his subordinates used the power of the devil to resist, but they could not withstand his sword. It is obvious that he also possesses heaven-level swordsmanship." Taoist Ningjing instantly understood what Sima Haoan meant, so, that lower world hides a big secret. Taoist Ningjing continued, "Can you still find that location?" Sima Haoan said, "Before my clone was chopped off, I left a trace of consciousness on the nearby fragments of the world." Hearing this, the person opposite Sima Haoan who looked exactly like Sima Haoan changed instantly and turned into a mirror. "Very good, take me to that lower world immediately. I want to see that there is something hidden in the lower world." Although he also has a heaven-level spiritual weapon in his hand, no one thinks that there are too many treasures. Even if there are no other treasures in that lower world, just a heaven-level spiritual sword and a heaven-level sword technique, it is still worth his trip. End of chapter. Chapter 843. I intend to establish a dynasty. Seeing that Taoist Ningjing agreed, Sima Haoan was very happy because he could finally take revenge. Taoist Ningjing has the strength of the first level of Gigzu realm. If he uses the power of the demon while being demonized, he can even easily cross the level and kill the 5th level cultivator of Gigzu realm. Soon, Sima Haoan took Taoist Ningjing to Tianchen world. At the same time, Lu Chen didn't know that a new enemy was coming to find him. In the next 2 years, he once again consolidated his control over the Xiang world and the Liayan world. As his control over the 3 worlds became stronger and stronger, Lu Chen also came up with the idea that it was time to create a dynasty. Nowadays, their territory is no longer just one world, but the entire chaotic star sea. Generally speaking, the territory is divided into star fields, and that is only the dynasty. A dynasty is one level higher than a dynasty. There can be countless dynasties under a dynasty, which is no different from the previous feudal system. However, because the territory is so large, enfeoffment is a more appropriate choice at this stage. Black Dragon City. Today's Black Dragon City is very lively. The sky is full of ferry boats flying around, and the earth is also full of speeding trains. Today's Tianchen world not only has the atmosphere of modern industrial civilization on Earth, but also retains some of the original culture of this world. For example, although the houses are all built with reinforced concrete, the roofs and decorations are no different from before. Moreover, there are no high-rise buildings hundreds of meters high in Tianchen world. The tallest high-rise building is located in the Imperial Palace, which is only 30 floors. Except for the high-rise building in the Imperial Palace, the buildings in the outside world only have 6 floors at most, and this is an express rule. Today is the Three Realms Cultivators Conference. Originally, Lu Chen planned to hold the Three Realms Cultivators Conference once every 10 years, but he planned to create a dynasty, so he held it in advance. Seeing that Lu Chen only held the Three Realm Cultivators Conference last year, and then held another conference just a year ago, the major forces knew that there must be something important again. In the Black Dragon City Council Hall, Lu Chen sat on the dragon chair and glanced at the monks present. Today, the leaders of all the top forces in the three worlds came, and the number of people was quite large, more than 1,000 people. Fortunately, a government hall has been built. This hall is very large and can accommodate tens of thousands of people for meetings at the same time. This hall was specially built for the Cultivator Conference. If it is normal, the meeting will still be held in the government hall. After glancing at the monks present, Lu Chen said, "Originally, the Three Realms Cultivator Conference is held every 10 years. It stands to reason that the next Cultivator Conference will be held in 9 years. The reason why I held it in advance is because there is something big is going to be announced." Hearing this, people thought that there was indeed something big going on, but they just didn't know what they needed to do next. Lu Chen continued, "I plan to create a dynasty." As soon as these words came out, the entire hall instantly became extremely quiet, and the people attending the meeting were stunned. Ordinary monks may not know the difference between dynasty and dynasty, but many of those who came today are monks who have knowledge of other cultivation worlds. There is a difference between dynasty and dynasty, but the difference is huge. A dynasty often rules several star regions. Creating a dynasty means that Daxia will expand to the outer star regions. Moreover, creating a dynasty is not just a matter of saying a word. Creating a dynasty also needs to be recognized by the origin of the universe. It does not mean that you say you are a dynasty, but you are a dynasty. Although Daxia now controls 3 worlds, the Xiang world and the Tianchen world have begun to merge. Maybe they will be completely one world in 100 years. In this way, Lu Chen is equivalent to controlling only 2 worlds. Want to create a dynasty by controlling 2 worlds? Can this be approved by the universe? Although none of the monks present had participated in the establishment of the dynasty, people knew from some historical materials left by their predecessors that dynasties seemed to be competing for some resources, and the resources in this universe were limited. Therefore, once a new dynasty is established and some old dynasties know about it, they will definitely find ways to destroy the newly born dynasty. Let's not talk about whether their dynasty can be recognized by the universe and successfully established. Even if it is established, I am afraid that it will be attacked by dynasties near the Chaos Star Sea. Those are old dynasties that have been established for who knows how long. Compared with those old dynasties, I am afraid that the newly created Great Xia Dynasty has no chance of winning. Thinking of this, the monks in the council hall showed worried looks on their faces. Seeing that none of the monks present spoke, Lu Chen continued, "I wonder if you have any thoughts about the imperial dynasty." People thought in their hearts that they dared to have any ideas. Emperor Xia had already planned to establish a dynasty. He must have made up his mind. It was probably useless for them to say anything at this time. Seeing that no one spoke among the more than 1,000 people present, Lu Chen said, "Since you guys have no objections, it's settled. I will find someone to choose a good and auspicious day to officially establish the dynasty." Having said this, Lu Chen glanced at Xiao Yuanjia in the hall, and Xiao Yuanjia instantly understood what Lu Chen meant. However, the establishment of a dynasty was special. He couldn't calculate the auspicious date by himself, so he planned to wait until the meeting was over and then let Tianjian's people work together to deduce an auspicious date. At this time, Nangang Yuehua asked, "I wonder which world your majesty plans to choose as the imperial capital of the dynasty." Nowadays, Lu Chen has many palaces. There are 2 palaces in Tianchen world, 2 in Xiang world, and even Liayan world has built a palace for Lu Chen. For Lu Chen, these places can be visited at any time, but the imperial capital is not a place for a dynasty to sleep. The imperial capital is a place where luck is gathered, so the location is also very important. What Nangang Yuehua was thinking was that although Tianchen world was the world Lu Chen stayed in at the beginning, the aura of Tianchen world was thinner than that of Xiang world, and the laws of Tianchen world were incomplete, making it very unsuitable to be the imperial capital of the dynasty. If Lu Chen wanted to choose the imperial capital, he would most likely only choose between the Lian world and the Xiang world. The Lian world is a medium world and is obviously more suitable than the Xiang world. However, from Nangang Yuehua's standpoint, Lu Chen hopes that Lu Chen can set the imperial capital in Xiang world. As the center of the dynasty, Xiang world will definitely receive more benefits and better development in the future. At this time, Lai Wenda said, "Your Majesty, I think it is better to set the capital of the dynasty in the World of Flames. The World of Flames is a medium cultivation world with complete laws and more resources than the lower worlds, making it more suitable for a dynasty. The imperial capital. Let's not talk about whether the dynasty can be established. If it can really be established, then as long as that world becomes the center of the dynasty, it will definitely soar into the sky in the future. No matter how bad the dynasty is, it will be of great benefit to the world." Chapter 844. You look a little unhappy today. Nangang Yuehua frowned slightly when she saw Lai Wenda actually wanted to compete with her for the imperial capital of the dynasty. This won't do. Once the imperial capital of the dynasty falls into that world, the luck of that world will definitely be very strong. We can't let the Lian world take it away, but Nangang Yuehua was vaguely worried because she also understood that the Lian world was a medium-level cultivation world and was more suitable as the imperial capital of an dynasty than the low-level cultivation world like the Xiang world. Just when Nangang Yuehua was thinking about how to let Lu Chen set the imperial capital in the Xiang world, Lu Chen said lightly, "I plan to set the imperial capital in the Tianchen world." Hearing this, Nangang Yuehua immediately said, "Your Majesty, the spiritual energy of the Tianchen world is thin, the laws are incomplete, and it is not suitable as the imperial capital of a dynasty." Lu Chen said, "The laws of the Tianchen world will be repaired soon, you don't have to worry about this." Seeing that Lu Chen seemed to have made up his mind to build the imperial capital in the Tianchen world, Nangang Yuehua didn't know what to say. Lu Chen said at this time, "After the establishment of the dynasty, I plan to bring all the life worlds around the Chaos Star Sea under the rule of the Great Xia Dynasty." People were not surprised to hear this. Since the dynasty has been established, it must control a star field no matter what, otherwise it is not a dynasty. At this time, Lai Wenda said, "Your Majesty, the Flame World is willing to expand its territory for you." After all, Lai Wenda is a puppet emperor supported by Lu Chen, so he is firmly on Lu Chen's side. As long as Lu Chen says a word, everything in the Flame World will serve Lu Chen. At this time, Nangang Yuehua also expressed his position and said, "The Xiao dynasty obeys Your Majesty's dispatch." Unlike Lai Wenda, Nangang Yuehua is only the emperor of the Xiao dynasty, so she cannot represent the entire Xiang world. However, after Nangang Yuehua finished speaking, Nangang Kinja also spoke up and said, "The Cultivation Alliance also obeys His Majesty's dispatch." Lu Chen continued, "I have observed the worlds around the Chaos Star Sea in the past 2 years. Most of the worlds are low-level worlds with incomplete laws. There are probably no strong people in them. But just in case, I still plan to send people to explore first. After the conference, representatives from the Flame World and the Purple Sun World will come to my study and take the star map. At that time, you will send people to explore those life worlds. In addition, I found that the space of the Chaos Star Sea is very unstable, and there will often be some space turbulence. If that force discovers space turbulence in the future, it must be reported in time. Space turbulence is not a good thing for the Chaos Star Sea. It is easy to bring some enemies. Those people in the foggy area of the Tianchen world were brought to the Tianchen world by space turbulence. The most headache for Lu Chen is space turbulence. If space turbulence brings some weak cultivators, it's okay, but I'm afraid that space turbulence will bring some troubles that he can't handle. Now he has no ability to solve the problem of space turbulence, so he can only strengthen prevention. After talking about space turbulence, Lu Chen also talked about some matters about the establishment of the dynasty. After the Three Realms Cultivator Conference ended, the Great Xia Dynasty immediately issued a notice to announce the establishment of the dynasty to the three worlds. When the people heard that they were going to establish a dynasty, their first reaction was confusion. Most people didn't know what the dynasty meant. In people's eyes, there seemed to be no difference between the dynasty and the dynasty. The master of the dynasty is the emperor, and the master of the dynasty is also the emperor. It seems that only one word has been changed. However, those who understand what the dynasty means are very shocked. In a place like the Chaos Star Sea, Emperor Xia actually dared to establish a dynasty. This courage is really too big. Although everyone thinks that Emperor Xia is a little overconfident, but Emperor Xia is powerful, people dare not say anything, just establish a dynasty. Anyway, the Chaos Star Sea is a corner. Not everyone will notice that someone will establish a dynasty in such a remote and wild star field. Generally, dynasties are established in star fields with extremely rich cultivation resources. Only in this way can the overall strength of the dynasty be strong. Establishing a dynasty in this place is no different from a child playing house. After the end of the cultivator conference, Lu Chen returned to the harem of Black Dragon City and prepared to go to Yun Xiangxian's room to enjoy Yun Xiangxian's tenderness. However, on the way to Yun Xiangxian's bedroom, Lu Chen passed by Lu Qingkai's yard. At this time, Lu Qingkai was wearing a green dress, standing in the pavilion, looking at the koi in the lotus pond, and seemed to be thinking about something. Lu Qingkai's figure was graceful and plump, and the whole person exuded a dignified and noble aura. Just seeing Lu Qingkai's back, Lu Chen instantly had an idea. It happened that he was a little curious about why Lu Qingkai looked lost. As Lu Qingkai's man, he naturally had to comfort her when he saw that she was in a bad mood. Lu Chen entered the yard without hesitation. Lu Qingkai instantly sensed Lu Chen's arrival and turned to look at Lu Chen. "Your Majesty, don't you have something important to do today? Why did you come to me?" Now Lu Qingkai no longer has any rejection of Lu Chen. Although she was forcibly occupied by Lu Chen, they are also an old couple. In addition, Lu Chen treats her very well, so she has no resentment towards Lu Chen now. Lu Chen came behind Lu Qingkai, hugged her soft waist, and pressed his body tightly against her hips. Then he said, "You seem a little unhappy today. What happened?" Hearing Lu Chen's question, Lu Qingkai was slightly stunned. Usually, Lu Chen came to her place just to have fun with her and rarely paid attention to her other things. She didn't expect Lu Chen to be able to see that she was worried at a glance. Seeing that Lu Qingkai didn't answer immediately, Lu Chen asked, "Could it be that you and Mu Yongzi have a conflict again?" In the Tianchen world, the only person who can make Lu Qingkai angry is probably Mu Yongzi, a former ally. Both of them like to watch each other being tortured to death by Lu Chen, and often mock each other because of this. Lu Chen smiled and said, "If it is really her who provoked you and made you unhappy, I will let her come now, and then teach her a lesson in front of you." Lu Qingkai certainly understood what Lu Chen meant by lesson, but she said at this time, "Your Majesty, this time it has nothing to do with her." Hearing this, Lu Chen was slightly stunned. It has nothing to do with Mu Yongzi? What else could make Lu Qingkai feel so heavy? Since he and Lu Qingkai had cultivated their relationship for a certain number of times, he had never seen such a heavy look on Lu Qingkai's face. Soon, Lu Chen reacted. He asked tentatively, "Did your main body find you?" Lu Qingkai was just a clone of a powerful being. Lu Chen knew this a long time ago. If it wasn't because of Mu Yongzi, it could only be her main body. It couldn't be because he hadn't come to mess with her recently. Lu Qingkai was similar to Yun Xian. They were people who focused on cultivation. For men and women, once a year was usually enough. Lu Chen didn't believe that it was because of him that Lu Qingkai was so unhappy. End of this chapter. Chapter 845, damn it. It end number 039, s like this again. After hearing Lu Chen's words, Lu Qingkai said, when I was practicing a few days ago, I suddenly sensed the consciousness of my main body. Although it was only a moment, she probably knew my location and might find the Tianchen world soon. Lu Qingkai was a little worried. Although she knew that Lu Chen's identity was special, her main body was not an ordinary person. If her main body got angry, she might ignore Lu Chen's identity and attack him directly. Lu Chen hugged Lu Qingkai's soft body and asked softly in her ear, "Qingkai, do you know what your main body is now?" Lu Qingkai replied, "I don't know, but with her talent and qualifications, she is probably already a saint." Hearing this, Lu Chen was slightly stunned. Saint? Is it true? If it is a saint, it might be really difficult to deal with. I just don't know when she can reach the Tianchen world. Thinking of this, Lu Chen fell into silence and began to think about how to deal with Lu Qingkai's main body. Lu Qingkai's secondary body has a score of over 90, so Lu Qingkai's main body must also have a score of over 90. Lu Chen will naturally not let go of the lady who took the initiative to come to his door. But then again, he couldn't even keep Lai Hongyun, who was in the Gigzu realm, so he couldn't do anything about the Saint realm strongman. It seems that he has to hurry up and break through to the Gigzu realm. Only after breaking through to the Gigzu realm, he can barely have the strength of the Saint realm after putting on the Shengui armor, and then he can compete with Lu Qingkai's main body. At this time, Lu Chen's voice sounded in Lu Qingkai's ears again, "Qingkai, I haven't been to you for a while." Hearing this, Lu Qingkai instantly understood what Lu Chen meant. This guy wanted to confront her again, and then she said, "Your Majesty has important things to do today, I won't waste your Majesty's time, your Majesty should go and do your own things." Although she can't leave Lu Chen, she is more psychologically inseparable. As for the affairs of men and women, unless she is confronted by Lu Chen, she is not very interested. Lu Chen naturally understood what kind of woman Lu Qingkai was. As soon as Lu Qingkai finished speaking, her eyes went dark. When the light appeared again, Lu Chen had already placed her on the couch and pressed down her plump and soft body. Lu Qingkai knew that she was doomed today, so she did not resist, but said, "Your Majesty, if my main body really comes, how do you plan to deal with her?" Lu Chen's claws pulled Lu Qingkai's belt while saying, "Why do you want to deal with her? You and she are one. Since you are already my woman, she should also become my wife." Hearing this, Lu Qingkai laughed. She cursed in her heart, a dog can't change its eating habits. She also guessed Lu Chen's thoughts. Lu Chen really didn't mind having too many women. He already had so many women in his harem, and he was still thinking about expanding his harem. Although she despised Lu Chen in her heart, Lu Qingkai herself didn't care too much. For her, it didn't matter how many women Lu Chen had. The main reason is that this guy is energetic and knows how to treat everyone equally. Lu Chen rarely lets his woman have strong unconcealed emotions towards him. Of course, there are still some small emotions, such as when this guy is arguing with people, sometimes he just knows to torment them to death. Lu Qingkai said, "If you want her to be your wife, it depends on whether you have such strength. She is not as easy to deceive as your women. The trick of Dragon and Phoenix Tea will have no effect in front of her. If her main body is already a saint, she will definitely be able to see the problem of Dragon and Phoenix Tea at a glance. Lu Chen will definitely not be able to subdue her with Dragon and Phoenix Tea at that time. The only way is to surpass her in strength, injure her first, and then give her Dragon and Phoenix Tea." Hearing Lu Qingkai's words, Lu Chen smiled faintly. When the enemy comes, the general will stop the water and the earth will cover it. When she arrives, we will think of a way to deal with her. At this point, Lu Chen lifted Lu Qingkai's jade legs, pressed them slightly on both sides of the body, and then sank down. Lu Qingkai was stunned for a moment. This guy had always wanted to kiss her before, but why did he do that today? Lu Qingkai looked at Lu Chen with resentment. Lu Chen had already started to get busy at this time. Lu Qingkai then took the initiative to stretch out her jade arms and pretended to want to hug him. Since they were already in an intimate state, Lu Qingkai had nothing to be embarrassed about. Lu Chen did not refuse Lu Qingkai either. He leaned down and kissed Lu Qingkai's red lips, making their bodies tightly pressed together. At the same time, in the void space, a huge palace was flying towards the direction of Tianchen world. The palace was dominated by gold as a whole, and it was very wide and looked very luxurious. The palace shuttled through the universe like a moving continent. At this time, in a certain bedroom, a beautiful woman suddenly opened her eyes, and a hint of murderous intent flashed in her eyes. Damn it! Here it comes again. When I reach that world, I will tear you into pieces. Lu Qingyun was extremely angry at this time. Not long ago, she had broken through to the saint realm, but as a saint, her clone was imprisoned and turned into a plaything. Originally, she couldn't feel her clone at first. Even if the clone encountered something, the clone's feelings would not be transmitted to her. However, in recent years, the feeling of being invaded would often be transmitted to her mind through the spiritual connection. Originally, she wanted to kill her clone directly. After all, her clone had been treated like that by someone, and keeping it was also an insult to her. But every time she wanted to kill her clone with her spiritual sense, the connection between the clone and her spiritual sense would be closed again, as if someone did it on purpose. Now she is only a saint of the first level, and there is no way to abandon the clone by cutting off the cause and effect. If that feeling continues to come, it will inevitably affect her cultivation and may even make her go astray. Lu Qingyun even suspected that someone knew that Lu Qingkai was her clone, and asked you to imprison her clone on purpose to play with her, so that she could not practice, and eventually go astray, and her heart was broken. After feeling that feeling coming again, Lu Qingyun tried to hold on and tried to use her spiritual sense to check the situation on Lu Qingkai's side again. However, at this moment, the spiritual sense connection between her and Lu Qingkai was broken again. Lu Qingyun was furious again. Damn it! It's like this again. Now Lu Qingyun was 100% sure that someone had deliberately imprisoned her clone and did that kind of dirty thing just to deal with her. Otherwise, how could the other party cut off the connection between her clone and herself every time she was about to destroy her clone with her spiritual sense? End of this chapter. Subscribe to Chinese Novel Audio Wave. Chapter 846 Red Flower Sedan. Lu Qingyun quickly calmed down again, and some people began to appear in her mind. The people who imprisoned her clone and did that kind of thing were most likely her enemies. She began to check through her memories to see who might have done that. However, after pondering for a while, she still did not find the enemy who might have done this to her, mainly because she did not think that there was any enemy among her enemies who could easily block the spiritual connection. If the other party really had such strength, and could even block the spiritual connection and causal connection of the clone, then would such a person still need to use such a trick on her? Just attack her original body directly. Forget it, when she gets there, she will know who is playing with her clone. Although the spiritual connection has been disconnected, she has found the approximate direction, and the spiritual connection will return to normal for a short time. As long as she keeps going in the direction of the spiritual connection, she can find her clone. Lu Qingyun also suspected that someone had caught her clone and used her clone to lure her over, but she couldn't care so much now. Even if that place is a trap, she must go. If the other party keeps using her clone to do that kind of thing, and the feeling of being invaded is transmitted to her body from time to time, how can she practice? Moreover, the other party did that to her clone, she wanted to chop the other party into pieces. If she didn't go because it was a trap, how could she chop that guy into pieces? Thinking of this, Lu Qingyun immediately controlled the palace and accelerated the speed of advancement. At this moment, she vaguely heard a faint bell sound. Lu Qingyun was alert instantly. How could there be a bell sound in the void? She immediately released her consciousness, and the next moment, she determined the source of the sound, and Lu Qingyun immediately went out of the palace. At this moment, there was a sedan chair emitting red light in the void. Seeing this weird scene, Lu Qingyun was stunned. After coming to her senses, she immediately made a move, and a green lotus instantly flew towards the red sedan chair. When the lotus was about to touch the red sedan chair, a violent explosion occurred, and the void was shrouded in a green mist. But Lu Qingyun did not relax her vigilance. After a while, when the green mist dissipated, the red sedan chair was still intact and suspended in the void. Seeing this scene, Lu Qingyun frowned slightly, and her cold and beautiful face became extremely serious. With her saintly power, she couldn't hurt this red sedan chair. What kind of treasure is this? Could it be a heavenly spiritual weapon? Or a holy spiritual weapon? It doesn't look like a heavenly spiritual weapon. If it is a heavenly spiritual weapon, she can sense it instantly. This thing is likely to be a holy weapon. But how can a holy weapon appear here? And this holy weapon looks like it has an owner. Lu Qingyun snorted coldly, and then said, "Hide your head and show your tail." While speaking, Lu Qingyun's whole body was flowing with Taoism. The next moment, another green lotus condensed from the top of Lu Qingyun's head. Lu Qingyun waved her hand, and the green lotus hit the red sedan chair again. But this time she still didn't hurt the red sedan chair. Lu Qingyun was more certain that the red sedan chair in front of her was a holy weapon. To be able to take out a holy weapon, the strength of the owner of this holy weapon must be very extraordinary. However, Lu Qingyun was not worried. She was a saint after all. As long as the owner of this holy weapon was not an emperor, there was nothing she could do. But then again, she didn't remember offending any emperor. Since it was not an emperor, there was nothing to worry about. Just when Lu Qingyun was about to make another move, the red sedan chair suddenly flew away. Lu Qingyun didn't think much and directly controlled the palace to chase it. She wanted to see who was blocking her way. But soon Lu Qingyun found that the red sedan seemed to be leading her to a certain place. In a blink of an eye, a month passed, and the red sedan still did not stop. If it were not because the red sedan was in the same direction as she was going, she would not want to chase it anymore. This made Lu Qingyun doubt that the owner of this holy weapon was the evil thief who imprisoned her clone. When she thought of this, Lu Qingyun's face became even uglier, and there was murderous intent in her eyes. If the owner of this holy weapon was really the guy who imprisoned her clone, then he let his holy weapon fly to her, which was tantamount to provoking her. Lu Qingyun snorted coldly and said, "Since you want to die so much, then I will fulfill your wish." Black Dragon City, the palace. Lu Qingshu's bedroom was full of vitality and spring. Lu Chen was like a machine, not knowing how to stop. After an unknown amount of time, Lu Chen stopped hugging Lu Qingshu's body, but his claws were still wandering around Lu Qingshu's body, either pinching here or rubbing there. Lu Chen asked, "Have you felt the consciousness of your main body this month?" The reason why Lu Chen stayed for a month was very simple. Yun Xiangxian's feelings as a clone could be transmitted to the main body, so the feelings of Lu Qingshu's clone should also be able to be transmitted to Lu Qingshu's main body. In this case, he let her main body experience it first. Hearing Lu Chen's question, Lu Qingshu instantly understood Lu Chen's intention, and then she said, "Who are you, dissatisfied that you are not dying fast enough?" Lu Qingshu knew her master's personality very well. With her personality, she would be very angry if she knew that Lu Chen deliberately used this method to humiliate her, and she would want to cut Lu Chen into pieces. Lu Chen smiled and said, "Anyway, I have already possessed your body, so I don't care if she gets more angry." Lu Chen guessed that Lu Qingkaiu's master probably wanted to kill him when he knew that he possessed Lu Qingkaiu. If so, what should he worry about? Seeing that Lu Chen looked like a dead pig that was not afraid of boiling water, Lu Qingkaiu didn't say anything more. Lu Chen sat up gently at this time, and pulled Lu Qingkaiu's body up, and the two sat facing each other. Lu Qingkaiu raised her jade hand and placed it on Lu Chen's chest, staring at Lu Chen with a misty peach blossom eyes. Lu Qingkaiu asked, "Your realm has not improved much, has it?" Lu Chen started to move again. "Why are you asking this?" Lu Qingkaiu said, "It seems that your life avenue is no longer accessible." In the past, whenever a woman asked Lu Chen to focus on cultivation, Lu Chen would say that he was on the avenue of life. At that time, Lu Chen's cultivation level improved very quickly, and Lu Chen's wives and concubines were too lazy to persuade him. But now Lu Chen's strength seems to have reached a bottleneck and has been stuck somewhere. They haven't felt Lu Chen's pressure rising for a long time. In the eyes of the women, this is because the upper limit of dual cultivation has been reached. Although Lu Chen's dual cultivation method is better, no matter what dual cultivation method it is, the effect cannot always be so good. If the effect is always so good, then everyone in the cultivation world will use the dual cultivation method to improve their cultivation. End of this chapter. Chapter 847 Vulcan Gun Vulcan Cannon. Lu Chen saw through Lu Qingkaiu's thoughts instantly. He also knew in his heart that his wives and concubines were all worried that he would delay his cultivation because of his addiction to women. Although he has comforted them more than once and reassured them that the dual cultivation method will not affect the improvement of his cultivation, deep down in their hearts, her wives and concubines still do not trust the dual cultivation method. Especially women like Yun Xianxian who come from other worlds have always been skeptical of Lu Chen's dual cultivation method, but women like Mu Zixuan and others who are native to Tianchen world don't care at all. Lu Chen said whatever they believe. Of course, Lu Chen would not be angry because of this. He knew very well that they cared about him and were afraid that he would go astray and embark on a path of no return. At this time, Lu Chen gently stroked Lu Qingkaiu's snow-white jade back and said, "I know what you want to say, but think about it, it didn't even take me 50 years to go from a mortal with no cultivation to the realm of divine transformation. In the world of cultivation, no matter how talented and qualified the monks are, their cultivation cannot be improved as fast as mine. Whether I can continue on this path will have to be tested by time." Hearing what Lu Chen said, Lu Qingkaiu realized that it was true, although Lu Chen's current cultivation level had not improved much. But this is how the world of cultivation is. The higher the cultivation level, the harder it is to improve. In the past, they saw that Lu Chen's cultivation level was improving too fast, so Lu Chen's cultivation level was slightly stagnant. They felt that Lu Chen's cultivation level was slightly stagnant. The method of dual cultivation is no longer feasible. This idea is obviously wrong. If Lu Chen's cultivation method is not good, what are those monks who spent thousands of years to barely break through to the realm of God transformation? Whether Lu Chen's cultivation method is feasible or not depends on whether the shackles can be broken later. Thinking of this, Lu Qingkaiu didn't bother to say anything more. She didn't bother to say anything more about Lu Chen's cultivation. Lu Qingkaiu focused on Lu Chen at this time. She raised her jade arms and hugged Lu Chen's neck, feeling the happiness that Lu Chen brought to her. 1 month later. Black Dragon City Palace. Lu Chen stood in the middle of the Imperial Study Room, looking at the heaven-level rune weapons made on the ground. Yin Zhenjai reminded, "Your Majesty, these 2 weapons have not been named yet. Why don't you give them names?" Lu Chen picked up a runic weapon similar to a sniper rifle, then thought for a moment, and then said, "From now on, this weapon will be called the Vulcan gun." Having said this, Lu Chen's eyes fell on the cannon next to him. This cannon was no different from the cannons before the Great Xia Dynasty, except that today's cannon no longer uses gunpowder, but spiritual stones. Lu Chen then continued, "As for this cannon, let's call it the Vulcan cannon." After finishing his words, Lu Chen turned to look at Yin Zhenjai, and then continued, "Next, we need to speed up the process and create more runic weapons." Yin Zhenjai said, "Yes, Your Majesty." Lu Chen glanced at the Vulcan gun in his hand again, then at the Vulcan cannon, and then said, "Now that the thing has been made, it's time to test its power." Then Lu Chen put the Vulcan cannon in the Imperial Study Room directly into the space ring, and then his figure flashed and came to the void outside Tianchen world. After taking a look at the fragments of the world floating quietly in the void, he took out the Vulcan cannon from the space ring. Immediately afterwards, Lu Chen controlled the Vulcan cannon and fired a shot at the fragment of the world floating in the void. As Lu Chen injected spiritual power into the Vulcan cannon, the runes all over the Vulcan cannon emitted blue light. When the runes all lit up with blue light, a blue beam of light came directly from the Vulcan cannon. Spurt out. The fragment of the world in the distance was about the size of Mount Everest, but when the light beam from the Vulcan cannon hit the fragment of the world was blasted into countless pieces. Seeing this scene, Lu Chen was slightly surprised. He didn't expect that the Vulcan cannon had the destructive power of the Ruins realm. With the Vulcan cannon, Tianchen world will have a certain ability to protect itself even when faced with the arrival of a large number of powerful enemies from the Ruins realm. Well, not bad, not bad. Then Lu Chen's attention fell on the Vulcan spear. The Vulcan spear required fewer spiritual stones and was naturally much less powerful. Lu Chen did not have high expectations for the Vulcan spear. After all, there is already a big killer weapon like the Vulcan cannon. Without the Vulcan cannon, it is just one piece. However, compared to the Vulcan cannon, the Vulcan gun is more conducive to the control of monks with low cultivation levels. Then Lu Chen raised the Vulcan gun and pulled the trigger at another world fragment floating in the void. The next moment, another blue beam of light shot out. The world fragment was also blasted into pieces, but the power was obviously smaller. Quite a few, but it probably has the power of the first or second level of the divine transformation realm. A celestial realm monk can defeat a divine realm monk. Once such talisman weapons are mass-produced, the strength of the Great Xia Dynasty should be comparable to those of mid-level dynasties. Of course, Lu Chen had no intention of provoking those old dynasties so soon. The top priority was to improve his strength as soon as possible. Now that his cultivation level has reached a bottleneck, even if he absorbs the power of the source, he cannot make further breakthroughs. Now he can only see if he can get rewards from the system for improving his cultivation level by helping his wives and concubines to give birth to children in the world. Thinking of this, Lu Chen returned to the Black Dragon City Palace. As soon as he returned to the Imperial Study, Bai Qingqing came to Lu Chen and said, "Your Majesty, the Emperor Lai wants to see you." Hearing this, Lu Chen wondered in his heart, why did Lai Wenda not stay in the fiery world and come to find him in person? Let him in. The next moment, Lai Wenda entered the Imperial Study. After entering the Imperial Study, Lai Wenda immediately saluted Lu Chen and said, "Greetings to the Emperor of Heaven." Now that Daxia is already a dynasty, although Lu Chen's cultivation has not reached the level of the Great Emperor, the emperors of the General Dynasty are called emperors, not emperors. Hearing Lai Wenda's address, Lu Chen curled his lips. He was still a little uncomfortable with the title of Emperor of Heaven. Although he also knew that it was not appropriate to call Emperor Xia now, the title of Emperor of Heaven always felt a little too arrogant. Lu Chen didn't say much, just a greeting. He asked, "What do you want to see me for?" Lai Wenda said, "Your Majesty, we conquered a low-level world yesterday." Lu Chen asked, "So fast?" Lu Chen originally just wanted them to find out what the situation is in those worlds with life before sending troops, but the flame world actually conquered that world so quickly. Lai Wenda continued, that world is called Jinyu world, the spiritual energy is very thin, there are not even a few cultivators in the creation realm, so I simply sent troops to occupy that world. Lu Chen reacted and realized that the world was similar to the previous Tianchen world. Lu Chen said directly, it just so happens that I have nothing to do today, take me to see what that world is like. Yes, Your Majesty. End of this chapter. Chapter 848 I plan to help you create a sub-world. After listening to Lai Wenda's report, Lu Chen asked Lai Wenda to lead the way to the Jinyu world. The Jinyu world is a distance away from the Tianchen world. The immortal boat took nearly a day to arrive. In addition, the space where the Jinyu world is located is more unstable, and there are many world fragments. After arriving outside the Jinyu world, Lu Chen took a look at the world in front of him that was emitting a light blue light. This world was round and square, and the overall volume was about the same as the Tianchen world. However, Lu Chen felt that the laws of this world were more complete than those of the Tianchen world, but the spiritual energy was relatively scarce. Then Lu Chen directly entered the Jinyu world. When he saw Lu Chen's immortal boat entering the Jinyu world, the high-level leaders of the major forces in the Jinyu world came to Lu Chen and saluted in unison. We are here to see the Emperor of Heaven. The major forces in the Jinyu world have basically understood the situation of the Chaos Star Sea. When the army of the Flame world entered the Jinyu world, they had already defeated them. The highest level of cultivation in this world is only the creation realm, and the number of cultivators in the creation realm is very rare. As a result, when the army of the fiery world arrived, they directly killed all the creation realm cultivators in their world. Faced with absolute force, the major forces of the Jinyu world did not resist at all and chose to surrender directly. At this time, the leaders and elders of the major forces looked at Lu Chen not far away, and they couldn't help but think in their hearts, is this the Emperor of Heaven mentioned by the soldiers of the fiery world? So young? After hearing that there was a country called the Great Xia Dynasty in the Chaos Star Sea, people thought that the so-called Emperor of Heaven was a very old man, but now it seems that the Emperor of Heaven looks only in his 20s or 30s. Of course, the people present did not despise Lu Chen because he was young. All the creation realm cultivators in their world died, and there were a lot of Yin-Yang realm and Wanfa realm under the command of others. They didn't have the courage to despise the Great Xia Emperor of Heaven. Lu Chen glanced at the cultivators present, wanting to see if there were any women with a score of 90 in this world. After scanning around, Lu Chen did not find any women who met the requirements. He didn't care too much. At that time, in the middle world of the Flame world, he only found Lai Hongyun, a woman with a score of more than 90. This means that there are not so many women who meet the system conditions as imagined. The reason why he was able to meet so many women with a score of more than 90 in the Tianchen world was because of the interference of some mysterious power. Many of her wives and concubines were attracted by a mysterious red sedan chair. Lu Chen speculated that this should have something to do with the system. It was the existence behind the system that concentrated those women with a score of more than 90 in the Tianchen world. Lu Chen said at this time, from now on, the Jinyu world will be incorporated into the Xia Dynasty, and you will all be the people of the Xia Dynasty. As soon as Lu Chen finished speaking, everyone present immediately kowtowed again, and then said in unison, we kowtow to thank God for His grace. Lu Chen didn't care too much. He said to Lai Wenda on the side, the next thing in the Jinyu world will be handed over to you. Lai Wenda hurriedly said, yes, Your Majesty. Lu Chen then returned to the Fiheng Xianzhou, but he did not leave directly. He began to try to communicate with the heavenly consciousness of this world. With the help of the power of origin, Lu Chen just closed his eyes and felt a faint consciousness. This consciousness seemed to disappear at any time. However, it seemed to realize that Lu Chen was a strong man, so it took the initiative to approach Lu Chen and handed over its luck. Seeing the luck of the Jinwu world actively entering his body, Lu Chen was slightly stunned. It was the first time he encountered such an active heavenly consciousness. This is too tactful. When the luck of this world was almost halfway, Lu Chen said to the heaven of the Jinwu world, "Okay, let's do it." The Jinwu world itself is a low-level world, and the Jinwu world is located in a star field with a relatively chaotic space. If most of the luck of the Jinwu world is sucked away, the Jinwu world is likely to encounter a devastating disaster. After hearing Lu Chen's words, the heavenly consciousness of the Jinwu world immediately stopped infusing luck into Lu Chen. At this time, Lu Chen converted all the luck of the Jinwu world into his own luck. The next moment, he began to think about letting his wife and concubine give birth to a child world. After much thought, Lu Chen decided to give this opportunity to Su Hanyan. Although he knew Su Hanyan later than other wives and concubines, the most important thing now is to enhance the strength of Tianchen world. Su Hanyan is now in the 9th level of the Wanfa realm, and is only one step away from becoming a cultivator in the Huashan realm. Once she enters the Gigzu realm, with the blessing of the Shengui armor, she will have the strength of the Gigzu realm, which is equivalent to Tianchen world having another Gigzu realm strongman. Thinking of this, Lu Chen did not hesitate at all and directly controlled the ferry boat to return to Tianchen world. After returning to Tianchen world, Lu Chen went straight to the Mixian sect. At this moment, Su Hanyan's room was filled with smoke and fragrance. Su Hanyan was wearing a purple long skirt, sitting cross-legged on the soft couch, her beautiful eyes slightly closed, practicing quietly. A breeze blew, and the wind chimes in the room tinkled. Su Hanyan seemed to have sensed something. She slowly opened her eyes. As soon as she opened her eyes, she saw a man sitting on the couch, staring at her. Su Hanyan curled her lips. No wonder she didn't sense any breath at all. Sure enough, this lecherous man came. Su Hanyan finished her training without any hesitation, then raised her head and lay on the couch, saying lightly, "Come on." Hearing this, Lu Chen laughed, "Madam, what do you mean by this? In your eyes, am I the kind of person who only comes to you when I want to have sex with you?" Su Hanyan asked expressionlessly, "Don't you know what kind of person you are?" Su Hanyan continued, "Come on, finish it early. I want to practice. I have a vague feeling that I am about to break through recently." Su Hanyan knew very well that as long as Lu Chen came, she would definitely be criticized, so she didn't have any intention of resisting. It's better to get to the point directly, finish it early, and practice early. It will take at most 1 month. Seeing Su Hanyan so proactive, Lu Chen was too lazy to continue talking nonsense, and directly grabbed Su Hanyan's purple veil and tore it off with a force. Seeing Lu Chen taking action, Su Hanyan cooperated by lifting her legs. When Lu Chen's body sank down, Lu Chen did not continue, but stroked Su Hanyan's beautiful and cold jade face and said, "I plan to help you give birth to a sub-world." Hearing this, Su Hanyan's brain was stunned, and then she asked, "Really?" She had heard that among Lu Chen's wives and concubines, those who gave birth to subworlds all improved their cultivation very quickly, especially Mu Zixuan, a native of Tianchen world, whose cultivation is now almost at the Wanfa realm. If Lu Chen can help her give birth to a subworld, then wouldn't it be easy for her to break through to the Shenhua realm? End of this chapter. Chapter 849. Have you been fasting recently? After listening to Lu Chen's words, before Lu Chen made any move, Su Hanyan immediately activated the Suan Gong. Lu Chen was a little speechless. This guy was very proactive every time he heard that there was a benefit. Although being proactive is a good thing, for Lu Chen, he prefers to do it himself. Then Lu Chen began to increase the intensity of Su Hanyan. The wind chimes in the room jingled, but it was impossible to hear outside. Only Su Hanyan's begging for mercy could be heard. As long as the women who have been with Lu Chen for a long time, they will not deliberately suppress themselves. As for shame or not, they have no consciousness to think about it, so what are they afraid of shame? After an unknown period of time, as Lu Chen infused the power of luck into Su Hanyan, Lu Chen's system voice also sounded. Congratulations to the host for helping his wife Su Hanyan conceive a child world, and reward a universe star map. Hearing the system prompts sound, Lu Chen, who wanted to continue to abuse, was stunned for a moment. Universe star map? This is the first time he has received such a reward. Lu Chen then hugged Su Hanyan's snow-white body with a hint of blush, and then turned over slightly, letting her lie on his chest. Su Hanyan came back to her senses at this time, with a pool of autumn water in her beautiful eyes. She raised her body slightly and looked at Lu Chen with a puzzled look. If it was before, Lu Chen would not have finished without 10 days, half a month, or a month. Why did this guy finish so quickly today? Could it be that there was something wrong with his body? Just when Su Hanyan thought so, she found that Lu Chen was still in a relatively excited state. The two of them were so close that she could clearly feel Lu Chen's situation. At this time, Lu Chen slowly raised his hand, one hand gently stroked her jade back, and the other hand was in the air, not knowing what he was doing. After Lu Chen clicked on the universe star map, the introduction appeared in front of him. Universe star map, the complete star map of this universe. With this star map, the host will never get lost in this universe again. Seeing the introduction of the universe star map, Lu Chen thought to himself that although this is not a treasure, it is indeed useful for his future expansion, and the effect is not small. He glanced at the coordinates of the Chaos Star Sea in the universe star map and found that the Chaos Star Sea is located at the edge of the universe, a place of collapse. No wonder the space in this place is so unstable. It turns out to be the edge of the universe. It seems that he should expand outward as soon as possible and find a relatively stable star field as the territory of the Great Xia Dynasty. Seeing that Lu Chen seemed to be in a daze, Su Hanyan asked tentatively, "You didn't just get up from a woman's bed?" With Lu Chen's strength, it shouldn't be so late, but Lu Chen's body is fine. Su Hanyan can only attribute Lu Chen's current state to the fact that Lu Chen had just been against one of her wives and concubines for 10 days and a half, so now she has no interest. After hearing Su Hanyan's voice, Lu Chen came back to his senses. He smiled and said, "Feel your body." Su Hanyan looked at Lu Chen suspiciously, and then used her spiritual sense to explore her body. As a result, Su Hanyan was stunned. In her body, there seemed to be a dark world, just like his inner world, but that world was more dead, just like a chaotic universe. Su Hanyan quickly withdrew her spiritual sense, and she asked curiously, "Is this the sub-world?" Lu Chen said, "Yes, the sub-world is still in its early stages, and it will take about a year or two to be nurtured." After hearing Lu Chen's words, Su Hanyan was a little excited. After all, the sub-world is of great help to cultivation. Su Hanyan thought to herself, no wonder this guy didn't continue, it turned out that she had already made her pregnant. But then again, even if the sub-world has been planted, it won't stop them from continuing. The sub-world is not a child, and it has no effect on their dual cultivation. Thinking of this, Su Hanyan stood up slightly, and then sank again. If it were normal, she would be devoted to cultivation and naturally would not have much interest in dual cultivation, but once this kind of thing started, she would have to satisfy her addiction. Seeing this scene, Lu Chen chuckled and ignored Su Hanyan's little action. Lu Chen directly took out the universe star map, and the next moment, the whole room seemed to be in the starry sky. Su Hanyan was stunned and stopped her movements. She glanced at the boundless starry sky and asked in confusion, "I didn't expect that your majesty would still have such an interest." Su Hanyan thought that Lu Chen's old problem had come back again, and he liked to do some tricks and planned to do that kind of thing in the starry sky. Su Hanyan continued, "If your majesty really wants to, why not, go directly to the void, why use illusions? Lu Chen laughed, and then he said, what are you thinking about, take a closer look at what this is. Hearing this, Su Hanyan took a serious look at the surrounding situation, and she reacted the next moment. This is star map. Then, Su Hanyan stared blankly at a world not far away that was emitting red light. Su Hanyan recognized that world at a glance. That was the hometown she had been thinking about day and night. Ever since they encountered the space turbulence and were brought to the Tianchen world, they have been wanting to return to the Big Xia world, but unfortunately they are not strong enough, and without the star map, even if she has reached the Wanfa realm and has the ferry boat, it is difficult for them to return to the Big Xia world. But the star map that Lu Chen took out actually had the location of the Big Xia world. Seeing Su Hanyan lying on him, raising her chest and looking straight at a world in the room, Lu Chen's mouth corners slightly raised, and then moved upwards. Su Hanyan snorted, came back to her senses, and stared straight at Lu Chen's playful eyes again. Su Hanyan asked, Your Majesty, this star map should be real, right? Lu Chen asked back, do you hope this star map is real or fake? Su Hanyan looked at Lu Chen with resentment, and then said, Your Majesty gave me such a big gift today, how do you want me to repay Your Majesty? In Su Hanyan's view, Lu Chen deliberately looked for the star map to the Big Xia world in order to let her return to her hometown. This was a surprise Lu Chen prepared for her. Su Hanyan was extremely moved and her whole body tensed up when she thought that this man had prepared such a big surprise for her. Lu Chen did not explain too much. Although this star map was not prepared by him deliberately, the coordinates on the star map can indeed help Su Hanyan return to the Big Xia world. He took out the star map to make Su Hanyan happy. At this time, Lu Chen smiled evilly and asked, Have you been fasting recently? For a cultivator at Su Hanyan's level, it is normal not to eat for several years. Not eating, plus the cultivator can use spiritual power to completely expel impurities in the body, so Su Hanyan's body can be said to be very clean. End of this chapter. Chapter 850 Tianchen world holds too many beautiful memories for me. Hearing Lu Chen's question, Su Hanyan instantly understood what Lu Chen was thinking. After being with this man for so many years, how could she not know what this guy was thinking? Su Hanyan rolled her eyes at Lu Chen, and then said, Don't even think about it. This guy doesn't follow the right path and only wants to engage in some crooked ways. Now she feels more and more that this guy is more like a demon cultivator than a demon cultivator. Lu Chen said calmly, Didn't you just say you wanted to repay me? Su Hanyan was speechless. There was no need to use this method of repayment. Although she had been tormented by Lu Chen a long time ago, she still felt a little repelled by Lu Chen for doing such crooked things. Su Hanyan asked quietly, Are you really planning to do that? Lu Chen smiled and replied, I won't force you. Su Hanyan sighed in her heart. This guy had coerced and induced her to do that before, but now he still said he wouldn't force himself. Su Hanyan didn't say anything more. She stood up slowly, and then leaned down again. After a while, Su Hanyan looked into Lu Chen's eyes and said, Now you are satisfied. As soon as Su Hanyan finished speaking, Lu Chen hugged her and turned over. Su Hanyan was a little helpless. When she met this man, she was completely corrupted in her life. Another half year passed quickly, and Lu Chen's cultivation level still did not improve much, while Su Hanyan's cultivation level improved to the second level of the God transformation realm in this half year. Although the subworld has not yet been conceived, the subworld has greatly helped Su Hanyan's cultivation, which also made Su Hanyan feel that he had made a lot of money. Although Lu Chen has often come to find her in the past 6 months, and since he gave in last time, Lu Chen often did not take the right path, she has basically accepted it in her heart. At this moment, in a certain star field in the Chaos Star Sea, a luxurious ferry boat is slowly moving forward. The world fragments are slowly squeezed away after hitting the barrier of the ferry boat. The world fragments and meteorites are being pushed away. After squeezing to both sides, it looked like a long road appeared behind the ferry boat. Lu Chen stood on the deck of the ferry boat and looked into the distance. He glanced at the star map and determined the position. At this time, Yun Xian, who was wearing a long white plain dress, came to Lu Chen and said, "It's really strange that you haven't been lying on a woman in the past few days." After Lu Chen left Tianchen world in the ferry boat these days, he had been looking at the star map to find something. Although there were several wives and concubines among the people who followed him, he did not do anything to them. This made Lu Chen look a little abnormal. On a normal day, no matter where Lu Chen went, he would let a woman lie in his arms and remain intimate with her. This guy can't live without a woman. After hearing Yun Xiangxian's words, Lu Chen smiled faintly, then stretched out his hand and pulled Yun Xianxian into his arms, then hugged her waist and pressed tightly against her body. The next moment, the fragrance of Yun Xiangxian's body entered Lu Chen's nostrils, making Lu Chen restless. Seeing that Lu Chen was interested, Yun Xianxian immediately said, "Rebel, let go and become your master." Yun Xiangxian's words made Lu Chen even more agitated. He wanted to rectify Yun Xianxian directly on the deck of the flying boat, but Lu Chen did not do so. He suppressed the restlessness of his body and said, "Master, this should be the edge of the Chaos Star Sea." Hearing Lu Chen's words, Yun Xianxian immediately raised his head and looked into the distance. There were no stars in the distance, just endless darkness. Yun Xianxian asked at this time, "Are you planning to leave the Chaos Star Sea?" Ever since Yun Xianxian knew Lu Chen's identity, she knew that Lu Chen would definitely leave the Tianchen world and the Chaos Star Sea. Lu Chen replied thoughtfully, "If possible, I don't want to leave Tianchen world. After all, Tianchen world holds too many beautiful memories for me." Hearing this, Yun Xianxian chuckled in her heart. She didn't expect that this lecherous person, who only knew how to indulge in women, was actually a nostalgic person. Lu Chen continued, "It's a pity that the Tianchen world is located in the wild star field. It has no cultivation resources and the space is not stable. We can only find another star field to establish a country." Yun Xianxian fell into silence and did not speak. She could tell that Lu Chen really did not want to leave Tianchen world. At this time, Lu Chen turned to a woman in green clothes behind him and asked, "Did you pass by this place when you came here?" The woman replied, "Your Majesty, we did not come from this star field." The woman is an elder of the Black Dragon Holy Land. Lu Chen brought her here because he wanted to ask what route the Black Dragon Holy Land took when they came to Tianchen world. When they leave Tianchen world, they will follow the route they took when they came from the Black Dragon Holy Land. Leave. Lu Chen glanced at the coordinates on the star map. The endless dark area in front of them was called the Black Domain. There was no world in the Black Domain, not even world fragments or meteorites. This was the real world. A zone of nothingness. If the monk enters the Black Realm, he will have no place to stay, his spiritual power will not be replenished, and it is very likely that he will never come out again. Lu Chen zoomed in on the star map and found that the span of this black domain was over 5 billion light-years, and there was no living world on the other side of the black domain. The span of this black domain is also too large. If he hadn't seen the star map, Lu Chen would have even doubted whether this was the edge of the universe. Seeing the endless darkness, Lu Chen gradually became calm. In front of the vast universe, even cultivators seemed very small. Seeing that Lu Chen seemed to have calmed down, Yun Xianxian did not tease Lu Chen. She also quietly looked at the black area in the distance. After an unknown amount of time, an immortal boat flew from behind. A monk from the 10,000th Dharma realm came to the Fihung immortal boat and said, "Greetings to your majesty." Lu Chen turned to look at the person who came. It was the female officer next to Nangang Yuehua. Lu Chen asked, "What's the matter?" The female officer said, "Your Majesty, the Xia Dynasty and the Xiang World Cultivator Alliance have jointly conquered a lower world. Although there is a slight conflict between Nangang Yuehua and Nangang Qinjia, the two are sisters after all, and they are from the same world and have no deep hatred, so when they act, they also act together. After hearing this, Lu Chen said without hesitation, "Lead the way." Now he urgently needs to improve his strength. Although Su Hanyan was pregnant with the subworld and did not get the treasure to improve his strength, as long as Su Hanyan's subworld is conceived, he will be able to gain a lot of original power. With the help of his power, his cultivation level should be improved. Now that he had conquered another world and had one more wife and concubine to give birth to, Lu Chen was very happy. After hearing Lu Chen's words, the female officer immediately said, "Yes, Your Majesty." Then the female officer took Lu Chen to the lower world created by Nangang Yuehua and Nangang Qinjia. A few days later, Fiheng Xianzhou came to a lower world called Qunren World. The aura of this world is stronger than that of the Tianchen world, and it also has monks in the 10,000 Dharma realm. However, for today's Great Xia Dynasty, the cultivators of 10,000 Dharma realm are no longer enough. Without the Great Xia Dynasty sending troops directly, Nangang Yuehua and Nangang Qinjia can easily suppress the strong men in this world. End of chapter. Subscribe to Chinese Novel Audio Wave. Thank you.